All right. I'm reaching right now because I don't even know if we're live. If we are live and people are out there on YouTube and you can see the show, let us know because it didn't even do the little entry thing. So we're obviously we've had to play some musical chairs tonight. So first off and foremost, welcome everybody to the Wednesday Night Live show for this week. As you'll notice, the landscape is a little different looking today. Instead of roughly, yeah, okay, Rod can see us good. Yay, I hit the right buttons. Now, it was bitching at me for Facebook. I guess it didn't like StreamYard going out to Facebook. So obviously with the situation at hand, just would like to let everybody know that this is a sad day here at the Wednesday Night Live show. Our host, John Truncali, lost his mother this morning. So he is tending to those matters, and that is why he is not on the show tonight. So if you have some time or you have a chance to reach out to John in any way, shape, or form, express your condolences and all the sympathies in the world, just like we do here. He's the cornerstone of this entire show. So, we lean on him heavily, but that doesn't mean that the rest of us can't do some damage in the background, and John and Paul will hopefully be back next week. So this week was a little crazy. We have to give Danny Gillis a huge round of applause before he's even had a chance to talk, to let him know that he just saved the show tonight. We had both Danny and Chris from the Tennessee Smoke Free Association scheduled for tonight. I did reach out and send him the link, and unfortunately, I guess some communication lines got crossed because I'm not the booking agent. I don't set them up.
I believe he's going to be joining us. I think he's going to be joining us.
Okay, great. So he can slide in anytime. He has the link. I appreciate you guys doing this. But again, we have Danny and Chris here from the Tennessee Smoke Free Association. So we're going to get to hear a lot about their story, a lot about their journeys, a lot about their advocacy piece in this industry, and hear about the things that they go and stand for in the Tennessee legislature. They're more regional than they are national. But I'm sure Danny knows a lot about what's going on elsewhere. I'm sure he's probably not living in a bubble. So real quick, I want to say hello to the wonderful cast tonight. And Allison, I'll spare you. Hey, everybody, it's Allison. And I'll get to you, Phillip. It's Allison. So normally what we start off with Danny is we just kind of go around the room and let everybody, just have everybody real quickly say how their week has gone so far. So Allison, how has your week been so far?
Going pretty good. Just working. Watched that fun FDA webinar, which I'm sure we can talk about a little bit later, which was super uneventful. Other than that, just doing this.
the status quo, huh?
Yep.
All right, Phillip, how was your week?
If I may, you all look marvelous. Thank you. You look lovely. This is a new microphone, so if it's loud or if I'm hissing or if you hear me snort, tell me to shut the hell up.
That's right. We'll try not to make you laugh.
We good here? Yeah, Danny, thank you so much for being here. It's a pleasure to meet you.
We have Chris here. I'm waiting for his image to come up, but right now he's a black block right now. So Chris, if you don't have your video, your camera on, give it a shot.
Absolute you might have to bloody legends.
There he is. There's Chris. Wonderful to see you. So thank you for coming in short time. So we told Danny we'll lead you along. We're basically a vape advocacy show. So there's absolutely zero that you can say here tonight that is wrong as far as in our eyes. So we're going to just talk a little bit about Tennessee Smoke Free Association, your involvement with that, what you do in your professional life outside of that organization, and then talk about your journey in general and just talk vape advocacy. That's what we do. So we kind of keep the spirit rolling here.
That's what we
outside
do.
Outside of Allison's a little bit more involved. She's with AVM and she works for what's it called again, Allison? The name of the shop?
E-Cig Charleston.
E-Cig Charleston. So she's part of the 16 chain store Goliath that is there in Charleston. And Phillip is a tremendous advocate in the space. So I'm sorry, Phillip, did you say how your week went other than the new microphone? And don't make you laugh. I think we got you covered. Me?
If you can understand me, the latency on my end is just, it's ridiculous. But if you can hear me, I'm happy.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. We can hear you wonderfully.
I'm
My week
enjoying
has been
positive humor right now.
okay. My week has been mired with a tender tooth, and it's resulted in part of my face swelling up a little bit. So if I look a little marshmallow man tonight, that's the reason for that. So we'll get through this. We'll get through all of this. Danny, sir, wonderful to have you on the show. How was your week been?
Week's been great. We're winding down the legislation here in Tennessee, so I'm actually in the process of building another store. I've been slave laboring over another location in another city that's close to. But Chris knows what that's all about. He just got done doing his down at TGA. So we're plugging along, man. We just kicked our JR's ass. Can I say that? And put them in place. We actually, Chris and I were just on regular watch with Brent, and Allie and Greg Conley had a clip in there, and they were trying to nail down this bureaucratic butthole. I don't remember his name because I don't really follow a lot of the federal people, because if I did, I'd probably want to go to sleep all day. Yeah. You guys bore me to death. But we watched that video of you two try to nail this guy down, and I told Chris, I said, thank God I don't have to be a bureaucrat, but yet we are. I mean, we're fighting in Tennessee, and we do it all for Tennesseans, and we try to stay out of the way of the people that are the big dogs, but we support definitely. But my week's been great. I mean, we got off legislation. Building another store, opening another location, working on legislation for next year. So we're doing fantastic.
Awesome. Congrats.
Awesome. Really good stuff. Chris, how's your week been, sir?
It's been busy. Kind of like Danny said, we've been doing well over here, which I'm glad to see. But yeah, tonight's my one night I actually work in my shop. So it's like I'm guaranteed to be here on a Wednesday night. So yeah, so I apologize. I've been running around like crazy. I just had to get stuff locked
that's
out.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was trying to find
we actually. That's okay. No, I mean we shape shift a little bit on the show. Sometimes things come up, and I apologize to drop this on you last minute. I mean, normally, I only co-host. They don't, I'm not hosting the show, so a lot of the stuff happens in the background. So we really, all of us here, appreciate you guys showing up here last minute. But it's good conversation.
I do want to say, Phillip, it's nice to see you.
Yes, we do.
It's been a minute since we've seen each other. And Allie, I don't think we've ever met, but
nice to meet you.
I talk to Lindsay a lot, and your name comes up a lot in conversations, so that's good.
Good.
Good to see you too, Chris. Thanks for being here.
Absolutely. So yeah, so that's just to give Danny and Chris a little bit of background on the show. We started the show over, I think, almost 2 years ago, just trying to keep the general spirit alive surrounding advocacy from the consumer space. I mean, obviously now with the addition of Allison and Phillip getting involved too, and being a little bit more on the outside portion of the advocacy, we kind of based this on consumer advocacy because that's really kind of where our journey started. We kind of quit smoking years ago with vaping, and had our own stories and our own journeys that we still follow to this day. And when we realized that, the proverbial shit was getting ready to hit the fan and we were going to have to stand tall, we kind of wanted to continue to perpetuate that, because advocacy is a very tough place and space to be in the majority of the time, at least I feel, just because it's kind of like trying to sell meat door to door out of a freezer. You're knocking on doors and you want to tell your story and you want to get people to buy in. But there's a lot of things that, work against you. So I'm interested between, let me just, I'll get to that. And I have the links and stuff for Danny and Chris. The Tennessee Smoke Free Association has a Twitter page, and they have a proper website. If you guys have any other additional links that you would like to show, I don't want to direct anybody to your Facebook pages. I'm pretty sure you keep most of that for your private life. But if there's any other relative links that you want to share, you're welcome to use the private chat over on the side, like in the StreamYard settings, and you can submit them there and I can throw them into a banner. So how we like to start this typically with most of our guests is kind of get a bit of a backstory, similar to the stories that we tell. So Chris, how did you come into vaping? How did it become part of your life? Can you share your journey with us?
Sure. So I was a smoker for 30 years. I came into this shop, Broadway Vapors, and me and my boss actually were both, we'd go out on breaks and smoke like 3-4 cigarettes at a time. And we finally had the courage to come in here and neither one of us have smoked since then. That was back in January of 2015. So fast forward a little bit, I left my corporate career in 2016, kind of took 2016 off, the rest of it. And then I laugh and I say, I accidentally bought a vape shop. So this vape shop was near and dear to my heart because it got me off cigarettes. But I come in here and they had nothing to sell. And I asked the owners at the time, I said, do you guys just need some cash? I've got cash I can put to work. We can buy some product. And they said, why don't you just buy it? And I thought to myself, man, I'm an IT guy. I was a programmer for 20 years, I don't know anything about retail, but I ended up taking it over in March 2017. Had no clue about deeming regs, nothing. I was just a consumer. Nobody told me about it. So when I started reading into it, I got pretty irritated, actually, because I'm looking at this product. My dad had just had a stroke, about a year before I quit smoking, which was kind of my motivation then. And I was pissed. I thought, if my dad had this technology, maybe he would not have a stroke, maybe he wouldn't be paralyzed, Right. And so I got really mad about it, and I wasn't really sure where to direct that anger. So 2017 went through. I was trying to build the store up because it was terrible. 2018 was kind of the same. 2019, I went to a Vapors Carnival in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I met the guys at Legion, and I met Alan Davis, and specifically, and Dave Gravy and I were out there together, and my whole brain got flipped around. Like I just started, and I was directed, and I knew what to do. So I started out with just a 6-hour radius from my house. So the first rally I went to was in Tupelo, Mississippi. And then I went up to Jarvis's rally in Columbus, which was 6 hours. And then I got asked to come to Rhode Island, and I thought to go to Boston. So somebody from Rhode Island asked me to come to Boston. And I thought, you know what? She's a really nice person. Susie, she worked at a shop called Goodfellas Vapor in Swansea, Massachusetts. So I went up there and we did that rally, and it's just been a wild ride. I mean, then I've just started going all over the country. I think my longest week was traveling about 7,700 miles. I started off in Trenton, New Jersey on Monday. Tuesday, I was in Milwaukee. And then Wednesday, I was in Seattle, Washington. And that was under Jay Inslee's flavor ban. And they were trying to get a state org established out there. And I got to meet the folks that were behind that. Really great people, passionate. I mean, just met a lot of amazing people along the way, And so ever since then, I mean, now, of course, then COVID happened, and that kind of took me off the road. Nobody was taking meetings anymore. And all that, those 2 years were kind of a blur. I think all of us got robbed. They just kind of deleted it from our hard drive, And so now we're just kind of ramping back up. The TSFA, Dimitri has been our fearless leader for a decade. And, his interests have moved overseas. And rather than shut TSFA down and kind of lose its credibility on the Hill, folks like Danny and Terry Livesey over at Knoxville Vapor, and Phil Harrell and myself, we kind of just took it over. Kind of got thrown in our laps, really. It was a big, bunch of stuff to clean up. And that's kind of where we're at today. And this bill that we got, I think the bill, I don't know so much we defeated it so much as they just amended the hell out of it till the sponsor dropped off of it. But it'll be back. But we've got some plans. We've got some things in the works that we're.
Yeah, I happened to catch that. Yeah, I was stalking your page a little bit, so I just was looking for vape-related information, and I saw that you guys had the success there, and that the fight continues on. It never really ever goes away, right? It gets quiet for a little bit, but that's not the time to sit back and punt and think that everything's kind of free and clear at this point. Danny, how did you get involved with vaping to start? I mean, how long were you a smoker?
I got to tell you, what? I've never shared this story with anybody but my staff and maybe a couple of customers. So this will be the first time I actually share this.
Okay.
My wife and I'm from Fort Lauderdale, born and raised. And we moved over to the west coast of Florida, lived there for quite a long time. And my wife, I brought her down to Cape Coral, Florida, and I brought her into the little vape shop down there, got her a vape pen. She wanted to quit smoking, and she quit. And I was ecstatic. And I mean, I put down cigarettes like that, but I was chewing tobacco, and I was having a hard time getting rid of my dip. I mean, because I was a jock when I was a kid. So I was like, I could drop these cigarettes, piece of cake, but I was still nicotining up with the dip. So we lived in Florida about, 12, 13 years ago. I was like, what, maybe I want to open a vape shop. But we decided that, we really kind of knew we weren't going to stay in South Florida. I was an event DJ. I owned an MC company, a DJ company for 25 years. I just retired from that when I turned 50. So I sold the company, and I've been in front of lots of people, talked in front of a lot of people. So this speaking stuff is easy for me, but yet I still don't like doing it, so to speak. But we ended up moving to Tennessee. My wife and I decided it was a good time to get out of South Florida. And when we came up here, I brought my event company with me. And I was DJing a wedding for a very prominent family. I ended up breaking both my arms in their backyard. I fell at the end of the party. I was in 2 casts like this for like 3 months in 2013, like right in the middle, like June, July. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, you know what? Christmas is coming. I want to retire from this stuff. I got to figure out what I'm going to do. Well, what I did was at Christmas Day, I handed my father-in-law a vape kit to get him to quit smoking. And I had already quit. I had used the vape to help me quit. As a matter of fact, I bought my vape stuff from Knoxville Vapor. They were at that time in the flea market. And I had quit smoking. So I had said, you know what, I'm going to get my in-laws, a vape kit. So we bought them little pens back in the day, a little thing. And sure as hell, they both put them down. My mother-in-law struggled a little bit. My father-in-law made the commitment immediately, 55-year smoker, and dropped them. And that day was Christmas Day. I said, I'm going to open a vape shop. And it took me about 4 months. And that was in 2013. And in April 2014, April 19th exactly, we opened up a little store, a little 750 square foot store, like $25,000 a startup, which you can't even fill one shelf with that now. But little startup shop. And then we've grown from there, and we've done advocacy. And to how I got involved in the TSFA is really unique. And I got to give Dimitri 100% credit to this. We had followed the Vaping Greek for quite a long time. The TSFA was still going through some, bubbles in the first year, ups and downs. I really didn't know much about the TSFA, but I was donating to Kazaa and Safada, and all that 2015-16 stuff started to happen. And I actually made a phone call, and I told my wife, I said, honey, we have to fight local. We have to get involved in the state. And I called Dimitri, who lives in Chattanooga at the time, which is 2.5 hours away down in that area near Georgia. And I said, Dimitri, I've reached out to you guys before, but I really, I need to get some information on advocacy, what it's about. And this is what I was trying to say when I was, on Regulatory Watch a couple weeks ago. You need to reach out to your advocacy groups and find your local group. And that's what I did. I actually reached out to the TSFA, and Dimitri drove up here. Took him, 2 hours to get here. He spent 5 hours with me and my wife in my store, sitting at our table, telling us all about what they do, how we fight, what it's all about, how to get involved. And it kind of just was like a light bulb went off, and we immediately joined the TSFA. And I was right around 2015, 16, somewhere in that area. And we've been a member ever since. We've done the whole Nashville many times. We've been to DC. We went to DC twice. Everybody went to the Avali thing. We went up there then. We went to the big rally that we had up there. And then this past session, Dimitri is focusing more on his endeavors in Europe and in Greece, and we love him to death. I can't say how much we love and respect him for everything he's done for us. He's done so much stuff for Tennessee. He was the first one, got the board together, the first state organization in the country. So we were the first state org, and Dimitri is still fighting as a purist advocate for the industry, and to this day he's still just stamping on everybody that gets in the way. And it was really heartfelt to see him leave. It kind of bummed us out, but we understood. And he basically just said, listen, I want you guys to take it over. And, Chris and I and a couple other members, we formed the board, and we fought the worst bill I have ever seen this year. And I got to tell you, we have a fantastic lobbyist. And we have amazing members. So we're blessed. But that's my story. It's kind of how I got involved. And now I have several stores, and we're doing very well, and trying to get RJR and Altria to kick rocks, because I'm working with other states. I'm going to let it out tonight. I'm working with other state orgs, just so everybody knows. We're going to collate, and we're going after them.
Nice.
Yeah, South Carolina can get involved in that.
Yeah, I'm talking to Char. I'm talking to Scout. I'm talking to us. Yeah, we're gonna do some stuff.
Alabama needs to get involved in that.
Yeah, Alabama's
post fucking haste.
Yeah. Alabama just took a beating.
We let's just say that I'm not exactly sure what's going on with the Breathe Easier Alliance, but I need to figure it out. That's all I have to say about that.
And you know what? I have to pause for a second, because I forgot to do something extremely important when the show started. Yeah. There's one segment that normally is passed off to me from John, and I completely flaked. So I'm going to say hello to the chat group and let everybody know how we feel. So, hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the Wednesday Night Live Show. Don't mind this puffy face thing going on. It's just a small distraction. So let's say hi to the people in the chat.
I barely
Tam
noticed.
Spraggins, great to see you. It's either her or Mallory that are first in the chat. So I don't know if there was a race involved, but I haven't seen Mallory's name yet. Maybe it's a little bit lower on the list. Raw, great to see you. How are you, sir? Wonderful to see you. Tom Morowitz, happy Thursday morning to you, sir. Down under. Let's see. Oh, there is Mallory. Mallory got in here. She kind of slid in the middle. I wasn't ready for that. She's a little sneak attack. She's being a ninja tonight. Good to see you, Mallory. How are you? Wonderful to see you. I know wee baby Seamus is in here, and we wanted to confirm that, yes, absolutely, wee baby Seamus. We have switched our time slots. We were previously 9 p.m. Eastern time, but there's older people on the show now, and we like to get to bed a little bit earlier than we used to be able to go to bed. So now we've moved it up to 7 p.m. So it has kind of shaken the ground a little bit, but yeah, so we're going to be 7 p.m. moving forward, Eastern time.
Ain't it magnificent?
Yeah, I'm awake for the second half of the show, which is a plus.
Michael Redfern, good to see you. Janine Timmons, wonderful to see you. Who else is in here? Who's hiding that I didn't see? There's Helena Tarin. Good to see you on the show. And I think that's it. I think that's everybody. So appreciate everybody adjusting to the new time slot. All right, so let me offer a little background really quick, just so people understand. And I'll let Danny and Chris tell the story. It's their organization. So a lot of us, we're just doing our research on the ground. Real briefly, Tennessee Smoke-Free Association was formed in 2014 to provide support and education regarding alternative methods of THR after seeing many years of failed attempts by our public health agencies to reduce smoking rates in the region. So Chris and Danny, you have the floor on this one. To elaborate in any way that you'd like to, and give us the backstory. Obviously, we understand Dimitri kind of kicked this whole thing off, but what exactly do you do? What does the Tennessee Smoke-Free Association do in general terms, so our audience can understand?
Chris, you can start that off. I'm going to pull up the bill while you're doing that. I'm going to pull up the actual legislation so I can talk about it.
Yeah, we can share on here too, Danny, as well. Okay. So if you want to put it up on the screen, you can do that.
Obviously, we work with our lobbyist, our law firm, and keep tabs on what bills are coming in a session that would infringe upon people's rights to a healthier alternative. And then from there, we kind of craft strategies to fight that bill, go to Nashville if we have to talk to the lawmakers, talk to the sponsors, and try to get them to understand, what their constituents actually want. And it's not this prohibition situation. And for the most part, I mean, I think Dimitri mentioned something that over the years, he's defeated like 90 some bills in Tennessee. Tennessee, for the most part, has been fairly safe, I think, from some of the other states that have just had this ban kind of mantra. But they're coming, they're coming after us. RJR's coming after us and stuff. So we're going to take a little different approach from here forward. Once we get this session behind us, I think we're going to go more on the attack. I think, like Danny said on Brent's show, put down the fire extinguisher and let's start bringing the matches. And we're going to start setting our own fire. Because it's ridiculous, all the stuff. And sorry, real quick, I'm going to say, when you said old people, that's usually me.
That's how we know you.
Yeah, I almost didn't recognize you when you got on camera. I'm like, I keep
That's
seeing
the Chris I remember.
Beard, yeah.
We met for the first time at that rally in Tupelo, and it was right before the DC rally. It was you, Dimitri, Greg, a lot of people there. I learned a lot that day.
Yeah, that was a good day. Me too.
And anyway, it's great to see you.
Yeah. I was told to keep the beard off for session. I like to go looking like this guy, though, because this guy in a suit gets attention. People don't think they got like 9-1 and they're just waiting for me to do something where they hit the other one.
I think Maggie likes it off, though, Chris.
Yeah, nobody likes it. Yeah. The girls here at the show, they don't like it. But it's a lot easier to eat this way, too, by the way. But so.
No flavor saver,
Can confirm.
Terrible, yeah. But I mean, in a nutshell, that's what we're doing. And like Danny mentioned, there are states out there that are struggling and they don't have a well organized advocacy group. And so, we've tried to explain to them, I mean, if you need help with anything on just how to craft a bill or work on something, I mean, we're here to help. I mean, we're here to stop people from smoking cigarettes. And I'm going to throw this out there real quick because I sent a friend request to this person. I think she's in Canada, Kelly Ann. So do you know her, Allie?
Yeah.
I went to her YouTube channel last night, and she boils everything down so simple. Her videos are like 2 minutes long, and they're fantastic. I actually texted her this morning. I said, I watched all your videos. There's like maybe 10, but it boils things down so simply. I mean, just to borrow from one of the things she said on there, is she said, there's all kinds of harm reduction in our lives. Whether it's a safety, seatbelt, which she in her videos shows 50% safer than not wearing it. A bicycle helmet was like 69% safer. And then when you look at the stacks of data from the UK, it's 95% safer. And she's showing this risk factor of this. And why are we vilifying this?
Right.
And nobody's talking about, I mean, the FDA just approved a lower nicotine cigarette. People are going to smoke twice as much. Nicotine's not the killer. It's the tar and all the carcinogens.
The media that she puts out there reminds me to, keep it simple, stupid. I think it's something along the lines of 79% of kids who grow up with a smoking parent end up smoking cigarettes. Yeah. And I think that she was the one who put that succinctly. And she's done some amazing things.
Yeah, she creates some great graphics too, and she just hammers them out all day long.
It's beautiful. It's so great.
Common sense is not so common anymore, though. Not everybody's looking at common sense. So you got to break it down that literal and that easy, for people to understand, because they'll believe anything right now. It's such a misconception all over the place. They don't know what to believe.
Yeah, exactly.
I have faith it's coming back in style, though.
No, it is. It is. I'm seeing the tide turn a little bit. And I just got to say, guys, I can't really go into too much of what we're doing. I can't really talk too much on that, but I can definitely talk about the bill that we faced and such. So
so break that down for us.
Yeah. Right. So and just like many other states, I think I was talking to Scout in Arkansas. I was working with her on her bill, and she had some language in there that was very similar to Tennessee, and it has a lot to do with this FDA shit. Okay, they're trying to do this FDA in the state level. They want a registry. They want to know if it's in market approval. If it gets an MDO, does it come off the shelf? They want to make sure that the manufacturer is reporting. And I'm like, why would the states want to burden themselves with what the federal government can't even handle itself? I mean, why would you want to do that? So there's a lot of language in here in our bill that had that. There was also some tax in here, which was like not heard of from Tennessee, because we don't usually see this kind of taxation. It was 7 cents per ml for Tennessee. That's ridiculously never heard of, never seen. Now, I spoke to the state rep who actually sponsored this bill, and we had spoken to the senator as well. But another one of our members had called him, and I'm not going to call his name out here, but we reached out to him and basically just said, what is your reason for sponsoring this bill? And he didn't even know what was really in it. I had to explain to him what was in the bill and what they were doing and what they were amending. This came out from the convenience store lobbyist, supposedly, and it was obviously backed by RJR and Altria. They were pushing it. So when it comes down to everything that was coming into the language, he had told me, he goes, listen, I'm hearing from my judiciary, people, from my judges in my district, that they're finding, whether they're Delta vapes or nicotine vapes or hemp vapes, I don't know, but they're finding vapes in their schools. And he wanted to do something to address that. And I said, well, this bill is not the way to address this. This is the actual opposite. This bill is going to go black market all the way, bad for business. It's going to put a strenuous on the state. I basically just talked him right out of sponsoring the bill just by telling him what was in it. And he just had basically read what they did. And these guys are busy. Our legislators, they had a ton of bills to catch up on, post-COVID, all the stuff that everybody's throwing out the wind. So the states got slammed really hard this year, really hard with, a strategic effort, I believe, by RJR. And Allie, you could attest to this because you see it everywhere.
Yeah, and it's in a lot of states, a lot.
Right. I've talked to Shar in Texas. I talked, like I said, Scout in Arkansas, and I'm talking to a couple others. And, there's some states that kind of already have a little bit of a problem trying to reverse some of their situations, but there's a lot of states out there that have a chance to preempt and try to get ahead of this. Instead of, my perfect analogy that I was called, it was perfect, but I just say it is what it is. I don't want to carry a fire extinguisher putting out fires all day long. I want to be the guy pushing RGR down the halls of Nashville. So whether
Right.
we Nashville or Arkansas or Texas, doesn't matter. So we've been pretty much dealing with, taxation in this bill, the FDA, the registry, which was, ridiculous. They wanted to encapsulate tobacco and nicotine and change the actual tobacco law in Tennessee and add vapor or electronic nicotine systems into it, like the FDA did. So basically, RJR is trying to mimic what the federal government's doing at each state, and they're putting a very big burden on a lot of these shop owners. And I'm going to call out people again because I did it last time. Chris, is it okay if I do it again, Chris? Yeah. All right. Well, I was talking to Brent, and I call people out. If you're in this industry and you're making a shitload of money, and you're sitting back and you got a PMTA and you might get a market denial, and then you resubmit and you're sitting back and you're making millions of dollars, all these, and we know who you are. I'm a vape shop owner. Chris is a vape shop owner. Terry, Pramod, Phil, all my other members, they're all vape shop owners. We know who's selling shit in what stores. We know what the big sellers are. Now, I can't tell you which juice companies are giving and which are not, but I know they're not all giving. I can tell you that. If there's 100%, probably 10% are giving money to state levels. I have to give a shout out to Marketplace. They just actually donated to the TSFA. It was a wonderful donation, and it's going to help fund our fight for next year. We encourage all our manufacturers, especially e-liquid lines, because they are the USA manufacturers. You can't get a USA device. So we encourage our USA manufacturers to give to the states because we're the ones taking the beating right now. The federal government's kind of playing choo-choo, and we're the one keeping the damn shit on the shelf, selling it, pushing your product. My employees are selling your stuff all day long, and I'm looking right at you. I'll tell you what, I'll call your names out.
Yeah.
But you need to start giving some money to these state organizations to push back on RJR, because I tell you what, Conley was about 4 inches away from getting on a plane to join us in Nashville. I talked to Greg. I said, I might need you in Nashville. He goes, just let me know. I might be making a pit stop, but I'll be there. And then we were able to kill the bill. So, sometimes you need a little bit of help. We're here to help. We want to help all the state orgs, but I'm going to ask all these manufacturers out there to get off your ass, get out of your Ferrari, write out a check and put it in your state's pocket that's fighting for your product to stay on the shelves of the vape shops.
Exactly.
You don't like it? Kiss my ass. Danny at tnsmokefree.org. You can email me all day long.
He's here all day, folks.
Well said.
No,
well said.
I don't think that you're unreasonable
Hey,
for
it's
asking
not all
for
of them.
that at all.
Let me just clarify. There's a lot of good manufacturers donating for advocacy. I'm not calling everybody out, so just want to clear that up.
Look, I don't own any shops, and I'm still, all kinds of pissed to the gills about this crap. And what you just said makes a lot of sense because, well, what you've built in Tennessee is important. You've just shown that your average state legislator doesn't really know what's in the bill they're sponsoring. It's optics, a lot of it is. Mm-hmm. And once you break it down for them, they're like, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't back this.
Yeah. And a lot of it too, I've found personally dealing with people, represented in South Carolina. It's like, well, I'll sign this for you if you sign this for me. It's kind of like a trade-off with somebody else that wants something else, has their own agenda to push. And it's like, that's not okay. You've no idea of the damage that you're doing. And it makes me even more angry when they don't know what they're pushing. I'm like, you're the one who you're the reason I'm here. You're the reason I'm not at home hanging out with my kid and I'm here with you is because you push this out there, but you don't even know what it's about.
You'll co-sign a bill you haven't even read.
Right.
Unfortunately, that's called Congress. That's what it is. They do it at the federal level. They do it at the state level. They get a topic.
That's shocking to me, though. And I'm not just saying that from a vaping place. You know what I mean? Yes, that's shameful that they would sponsor a bill that they don't even know what the content is. But I mean, apply that to any legislation across the board in your state for things not vape related. To see that legislators will move forward with promoting a bill that they don't even know what they're trying to get passed. I don't know what they hear to make them stand behind it, or if it's just the money in their pocket. But that's just scary to think that someone would just try to put legislation on the table to be passed that it could impact everyone's lives, and they don't even know the first thing about what's in the bill.
And that's the bill. But in 2019, when we had our rallies when the Avali outbreak, the black market THC happened, and we went to DC. Tennessee met with the Tennessee reps up there on the federal level, and I forget the senator's name. I don't know why I keep forgetting his name, but I went to meet with him. He's the head of the FDA oversight committee at the time, and he wasn't able to meet with us, so he put his senior staffer, a female that's been working for them for 8 years or so, Phil Rowe, I can't remember his name. Anyway, we met with him. This is 19. I've slept a couple of times since then, but I'm in a room with a couple of our TSFA members. And I basically had, something like this in my hand, and she had no idea what this was. And their FDA oversight committee over vaping product, all she knew was Juul. She knew closed system Juul. She did not know what this was. Now, unfortunately, we're getting bad press all across the board. Sure. And now all they know is vaping in schools, or, vaping is bad, or whatever they're hearing through the corrupt fake news. So they're getting these, and I can't fault all these legislators because they're trying to do what's best for their district. They just get entangled, I think, sometimes, and they get lied to, okay, or they get manipulated into what this thing morphs into, and these bills become big tobacco bills. Now, don't get me wrong, big tobacco is probably in the pockets of some people, but I don't know, and I'm not going to call that out. But when you get a bill that's kind of like a drafted copy of, like, it's got a caption headline, and then it's kind of got just like a draft across it, and you don't know really what's in it until they amend it, because they won't show it to you. I don't get a chance to see it until they submit it. So by the time it actually gets all through the process, even the legislator sometimes looks at it and goes, oh shit, this is not what I wanted. And right. and it's easy to defeat a bill that way. I mean, Scout was in committee last week in Arkansas, and they sat her at the table with RGR and Altria and left her there to make the amendments to the bill. It was just her lobbyists, RGR and Altria. That's it. No committee members, no senators, no nothing. You guys got to work this out. That's what they told her. You guys got to work this out. She goes, take open systems out of the bill. After hours, they did. And then they said they were going to rewrite the bill. They didn't. And I'm sure, Allie, you know this. Shar, and I talked about this. They ended up killing the bill because they didn't want to change the bill, because Altria is not stupid. They didn't want to just leave closed system in there, or RJR. So they basically just let the bill die. So whether it's, session's over there, I'm not sure. In Arkansas, I haven't talked to her in a couple of days, but, in our session's still going until the end of April. They can always try to sneak something in. But it's just, they don't realize if you can get a senator and a rep to get a bill, sponsor it, and then send RJR and their lobbyists in a room by themselves to go amend a bill, do they really stand behind this bill, or are they just trying to, what are they doing? Yeah. It doesn't make sense.
Well, Allison or Phillip, if you guys have any questions.
Shades of the Tobacco Control Act.
Yeah, it's very infuriating, honestly. And I think it's almost like, to me, it seems like almost like they're throwing a little hissy fit because, they only have a handful of products approved, and they're not the most popular things that they sell. And it's like, so now they just want to screw everybody else by making sure that nobody can sell anything at all. And making sure that we get this enforcement. And my biggest question is, are you about harm reduction, or are you not? Because if you are, then it's harm reduction across the board, not just your harm reduction product. And the more that's available on the market, the more successful people are going to be to transition. So you really get to see at the end of the day that it's really not about harm reduction, it's pretty sad,
Right. Well, they say it's about the kids too. And I hear that more often than not. And my thing is, you're not regulating this for kids. You're regulating this for adults. It's already illegal for kids to have this.
Right. And vape shops are not selling to kids. Look at the infractions. Look at all of the letters that the FDA sends out to every state. You can go on the FDA's website and find them all. Vape shops are not the problem. I think between 2021 or 2020 and 2021 in South Carolina was almost 5,000, violations. And I think 54 of them were vape shops. And I actually had to highlight all the information and break it down to bring it, last year to 1%. Try to. Yeah, it's not vape shops, and so you're punishing, you're throwing everybody out, throwing the baby out with the bathwater. You're just getting rid of everybody because you think it's the kids, but in reality, if you just go after the bad players and actually enforce real fines and give them real consequences, then there wouldn't be an issue, but there still would be the black market, and kids would still get their hands on stuff they're not supposed to have. you can't fix the problem. More prohibition only causes more problems. And they're just making the situation way worse. And now everything's not regulated. So now your kids are using stuff that is not regulated.
Right. Prolonging the process.
Yeah.
Right. And correct me if I'm wrong. I've only heard about Reynolds basically trying to clear shelves with the exception of their products that have been authorized. I haven't heard anything, at least not as of today, of a similar ilk from Altria.
No, they're in on it together for most of the bills.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're buddies.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I would say that's probably Altria's saving grace, right? They stepped out of the Juul fight. They got kind of walked away from that a little bit. So that brings up an interesting question. So when we talk about the kids and the adults and the dichotomy between the two, I mean, obviously there's not a person sitting here on the show tonight that will tell you that they are happy or endorse a kid vaping. So we understand that, it wasn't made for children, and we certainly don't want children involved. I mean, the devil on our shoulder would say, well, if my kid happened to be a smoker and I caught him tomorrow with a vape in his hand, I'd probably be a little bit happier that he's got a vape in his hand than a cigarette in his hand, although he shouldn't be doing that in the first place. My question to you guys would be, do you think that we always have to include kids in the conversation when it comes to advocacy and fighting legislation? Or do you think that there is a proper way or some way of getting these legislators to somehow separate the two and understand that, yes, we join you in your fight to want to keep this out of the hands of kids as much as humanly possible, but we still have to look at the adult side of things. So for the people that are educated and are making good positive choices about vaping as a harm reduction methodology for smoking, we have to keep it live for them too. And this heavy-handed approach with locking it down on the backs of kids isn't conducive. Do you guys foresee any way to separate the two when it comes to conversation?
It's going to be tough as long as, you got PAVE and these people thumping that drum. I mean, I just think historically, anytime you're hearing an argument it's full of fear mongering and for the children, you're being lied to 100%, and that's just history. Kind of like Danny said, though, these products aren't for children, and we don't see them testing, some unicorn tears flavored vodka. I think there's a higher incidence of kids drinking than there are vaping. Somehow that's not an issue. Nobody's talking about kids showing up, with a Bang energy drink with, a month's worth of caffeine in it, and they're drinking that first thing in the morning. That's not good for you. Nobody talks about that. So there's just a lot of other things we could be focused on, but as long as this misinformation campaign continues, I mean, showing the kids with like the worms going through their brains and stuff. I mean, I started messing with tobacco when I was like 14, 15. I don't remember worms crawling through my head. I remember I was dipping and smoking cigarettes. Actually, I picked up smoking to stop dipping, Copenhagen. But the whole thing is we just have to let them understand. And kind of like Ali said earlier, our stores are age restricted. In other words, you can't come in here unless you're 21. We do card. We will check right away as soon as you come in before you say a word. So we don't make underage sales. But now I've been in stores where, say I'm buying beer or something like that, and they'll take my ID for it. For some reason, when I look like a homeless guy, they'll still take my ID. I've heard them make comments that we don't even check for tobacco products. They don't care. So I was thinking, man, I can send my kids in here and you'd sell them a pack of cigarettes, and probably could. They would probably buy them. And, and kids are, we're all idiots at that age. I mean, I was getting cigarettes when I was 15, 16, no problem. I had older friends, or I'd just stand out and give a dude $10, bring me a pack of cigarettes. Same thing with a 6-pack of beer. We're resourceful. Kids today, unfortunately, have the ability to use things like, social media platforms to get stuff, which is terrifyingly dangerous, because then you really don't know what you're getting. And so when I ever hear fentanyl vapes, I'm like, who we're not selling this. But unfortunately, like I had a guy come in the other day, this was a couple weeks ago now. He came in, first thing he said is, I need an e-liquid that does not contain formaldehyde. And I shook my head. Excuse me? Formaldehyde is what we put in dead people, man. We're not vaping this,
Yeah.
And it was, my head spun. I just couldn't. I'm like, sir, you got this all wrong. I mean,
I'm keeping quiet out of respect for our viewers. So
I think that's the hardest part too of owning a vape shop. I mean, I worked on the front end of the vape shop. I managed the one location for 4 years, and it got to a point where people were like, tell me about this e-cig thing. I want to quit smoking. To a laundry list of concerns of things that have been scared into their brains that you now I had to like keep printouts of studies and articles. I mean, it got to the point where the first 20 minutes of the conversation are me just debunking all of the things that they've heard. And it's horrible because they're lucky they even walked in the door. They have so many concerns about making the switch, and the only reason that they typically do is they say, well, my friend quit. My friend has had a lot of success. My friend's healthier. So they see it firsthand, and that's kind of what changes their mind. But, my focus is on the smokers that don't have that friend, that will never know and will never even try, thanks to what is being put out there.
And that's really important. When somebody has enough interest in the product to come in and ask you questions about whether it be formaldehyde or fentanyl,
Popcorn
for
lung.
God's sakes. Yeah, popcorn lung. It's
Sorry.
I mean, I don't know how many months of my life I've lost making sure that I can explain this to people, why this is, magical thinking. But it's important that we keep doing that, because when they show an interest in tobacco harm reduction, we have to be patient and explain to them what's true and what's just fabrication.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Well, I think they kind of know what's true. The FDA certainly knows. They've got the studies on it. They know.
We know they know now for sure.
Yeah, we know they know.
Yeah.
They know it's harm reduction. So them clinging on to this, it pisses me off when I hear this. And I was screaming at Brent the other night on the mic, and I was like, listen, you're regulating these for adults, but they want to know the risk benefits to the kids. And I'm like, it's a stupid argument. It's a dumb. It's not for kids. You've already passed the law. It's over. It's done. All right. What's the harm reduction? The harm reduction is 95% safer than smoking. Let's move on. Let's get this thing into action. Let's push forward like the UK did and get people to stop dying. I mean, it doesn't, there's no common sense, especially we all know it's tied to money and bureaucratic red tape and, NGOs and a lot of people out there that are just pushing narratives, because they own tobacco fields or whatever. I don't know, but there's a lot of people that just want to spread lies. So the youth part of it, though, if they really just said it was the youth part, there's an easy just end of argument right then and there, which I won't announce, but I will later. There's an end of an argument. We can get that like buttoned up, and there you go. That argument's over. Now what? Oh, it's still not about harm reduction? What is it about now? Is it about taxes? Is it about the MSA? I mean, hell, Chris witnessed Massachusetts coming straight out in the legislative meeting saying that we need to get more people smoking so we can get our MSA money back in the coffers in Massachusetts. I'm like, are you shitting me? You said that in an actual Senate committee?
Yeah.
You actually said that?
Yeah.
So
it was a 10-hour hearing. And it was about
a lot of these states too borrowed against their MSA. So now if that money doesn't come back in, they can't repay that.
That is
Big margin call.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's why a lot of people, they don't understand what the MSA is. In most states, I mean, that just goes general fund and it vanishes. I've tried tracing it. You can't. And it's very frustrating to look at what they, like in this bill, they wanted to have a tax in there so that they could fund education. Well, we're getting, hundreds of millions of dollars from MSA money, which is
it for that. Yeah.
0%. It's so why are you taxing more?
And they had a law on the books in Tennessee to actually not share that information. That it was a bill this year. I don't know where it went, if it went anywhere, because I haven't been following the last couple of days, but there's a few bills left out there that had vape in it or tobacco product in it. And it was basically to hide that information of where that money goes. It's like, what? Really? Why do you want to hide that information? I mean, this is big tobacco paying back the states for the injury they caused across this country, and they have an agreement to pay this money, and you don't want to be transparent of where the money's going. It's supposed to go through youth prevention, enforcement, things like that. Where'd you put this money? What'd you do with it? Buy a rail system or a subway or something? What'd you do with it?
Yeah, I think we've actually looked up that data before and presented it on the show, where you can actually go see the number or the percentage of that money that's supposed to be applied towards tobacco efforts. And then I don't know how legitimate all of it really was, but I think that we were able to find some numbers on what they actually really spent on it in the end. So we had a by way of comparison. I don't have that data to pull right up immediately right now, but we have talked about that because one of the large arguments that underlies everything that we talk about is really the MSA and how that agreement functions and why it sounds asinine to hear anti-groups and lobbyists and people who prop themselves up on the fact that they would like to eradicate vaping for their nonsensical arguments. Is that, you know, we believe a lot of that has to do with the preservation of the MSA, in that, you know, it's one of those things where they had all this money coming in to pay back the bonds that they were getting ready to default on and the loans they had already taken out, as well as, you know, other things, you know, other segments of the state that they want to allocate monies to. And then very little goes towards the MSA. But when vaping kind of took a huge chunk out of that MSA earning, I'm sure, yeah, it probably freaked a bunch of them out. All right, so I'm going to ask a question. This one actually came from the Peanut Gallery in the background. So John actually has a question for you. John Truncali, the host of the show. His question was, well, I'll try to ask it without having you guys having to be redundant. So his question, I'll read the whole question though. It says, what is the Tennessee Smoke-Free Association and the, oh, okay, it's a full question. What is the Tennessee Smoke-Free Association and the community there doing differently to be so successful with advocacy? So throw out the comment that Tennessee's been pretty much safe. You know, I don't think anybody's safe. Maybe there's certain states that are a little bit more quiet. I don't know if it's because of the political structure within that state. I live in Georgia, so it's been very quiet on the vaping front here, other than recently where they talked about banning vaping in public spaces where smoking would otherwise be directed to. So basically, vapors have to go with the smokers. I can't personally say that I ever experienced a nightlife here or a social life here where all the vapors were inside blowing huge clouds in a bar and all the smokers were running outside to go smoke their cigarettes. It was never been that way. The vapors have always respected that. I mean, yeah, you see some stealth vapors, and every now you'll see a cloud go up at a concert or something, but not to an extreme. So from an advocacy perspective, John's question is, how have you been able to be so successful in fighting these bills and establishing your foothold there? And what do you feel you're doing differently to enable that success?
Well, I can tell you, I mean, being the first state organization as far back as we go, when we started with Dimitri starting this grassroots with Nick and the gang, and hiring on a lobbyist right from, you know, way back when. And we built a lot of strong relationships with our state reps. We don't have a lot of turnover in our capital either. We've had some over the years, but for the most part, Tennessee kind of stays pretty consistent. But I would have to say the engagement at the state level with our lobbyists. Of course, I know every single one of my state reps. I'm in 3 different districts. I have 1 senator and 3 state reps. And as a matter of fact, I'm meeting my new state rep as soon as I grand open my store. He's coming to my grand opening with the chief of police, believe it or not.
Fantastic.
And we're going to have them there for ribbon cutting. So the TSFA, I mean, Dimitri and the gang actually really had their heads together and they got ahead of everything. They built relationships. They founded on good, solid principles of harm reduction. And we kept that Tennessee Smoke-Free Association name alive because of that. We were going to change it to the Tennessee Vape Owners of Tennessee or something like that, Tennessee Vape Shops Alliance or whatever. But we decided to keep it the TSFA because it had the credibility and the history of the last, 9 years. So sure. I think our organization has been successful because we've been so rooted and we started off strong and we started off early and we built very good relationships. All of our members know all their legislators. We speak with them throughout the session, whether we're on or off. Now, Tennessee goes session every year. I know Texas is every other. There's some states that, go every year as well. I mean, Chris can probably attest to this. Chris has been with us a long time too. And I think, knowing your state rep and having that relationship. I mean, I called up Dale Carr and pretty much said, hey, Dale, I need this rep's number who's sponsoring this bill. He sent me his cell phone. I called him up and I started talking to him. And I never met this rep before in Nashville or locally. And he happened to be out of a different district, but I called him. And that was my relationship that I had with my rep. I was able to actually get that phone number. So telling them what we do. I've had all my reps in my stores. I've sat them all down. We've kind of go through the products. Had Andrew Farmer in my store. I had Dale Carr in my store. Like I said, Jeremy Faison is going to be coming in my other store when it opens up. So I think Tennessee, like I said, coming out of the gate really strong from right at get-go, and then building a relationship and having a history of just being with these people. Dimitri just being a solid rock. And then all the members just jumping in and staying on top of their legislators. Because if you don't, they'll steamroll you. If you don't have a strong advocacy group in your state, they'll run right over your ass and just pass a bill and you're done. So you just need to unite and get to know your state reps. That is huge. Get to know your state reps. Get to know your local sheriff's department too. I mean, I know my local sheriff's department. Superintendents of school. Get to know them. Work locally, and you'll keep your reputation and your name strong, and your advocacy will stay strong, and you'll actually have a good standing when you are going push against something.
Absolutely. Congratulations, gentlemen, on taking up the reins when Dimitri decided to move along. And I can't tell you how important that is. And you've done an amazing job. Please write down whatever it is that you're doing, because I need to pass that along to a few people.
We got a great lobbyist too. I got to tell you that. Very important to have a great lobbyist.
What's their background?
My lobbyist team?
Yeah.
They deal with us, obviously. They're involved in the hemp industry as well. And I mean, without going into too much, they work with they work with Jack Daniels. So they're basically in the vices, the stuff we all love that people like to try to syntax or beat us up on. So they've been
These
with
are
us.
my people.
Yeah, they're my people. Yeah, they're my people, and they're fantastic, and we love them, and they work hard, and it takes money. So that's why I call people out, man. Step up. If you're a shop, and I'm going to tell you right now, if there's a shop that's within 5 miles of my store that does not do advocacy and does not care about the industry, I'll buy your building, I'll evict your ass, and I'll put my store right in its place. I've already done it.
That's a true story, by the way.
That's a true
plan.
If you're not in the fight, get the hell out of the way. We are here to keep this for harm reduction. It's about harm reduction, saving lives, period.
Right. Yep. Allison, did you have anything?
No, I mean, I completely agree with you. I think consistency is key. And I think a lot of everybody's busy, everybody owns a business, same thing with the SCVA, and but it's difficult when you're only active when something, happens. You have to be active year round. You have to constantly be reaching out and making these connections. And I mean, I email info all the time, new info comes out. I'm like, let me send this along, give a call. Hey, did you get my email? Just keep your name in their mouth. Make sure they know that you're still there and you're still kind of paying attention, to everything that's going on. I mean, we've had some, pretty good luck in South Carolina. Some pretty fair, people that we've dealt with and reasonable people that we've dealt with. And we're really thankful for that. But, that could change at any moment. Somebody else could get elected who has a very, different view and you have to work that much harder. So at least if you have the foundation, I think it's very helpful. And you guys I think you guys kind of set the standard, you guys obviously Florida Smoke Free Association, you do so much good work and you actually make real change and it shows. And I just can't, applaud you guys enough for what you're doing. Cause it's what we're here for.
Seconded.
Thank you.
And we got to fight, like Brent, we talked about that, and, as to some of the legality of the products we're still selling. I mean, let's be real. If we're sticking to the actual law, nothing in my store has been approved, right?
Why do you think RJ Reynolds wants to push it out so hard? Because if they get a MDO, they're going to pull the product. We're like, well,
yeah, and that's why they want that registry.
But it's, I'm not sending my customers. I got tobacco stores in both directions, and I'm not sending them to cigarettes. If I've got to pack up a van and do black market meet, I'll still get you quality product. But the whole notion is crazy, for me. And just, I am not sending. I mean, we know as shop owners. I mean, we've seen tens of thousands of people. We've seen the transformative properties of these products, and you can't. The cat's out of the bag, man. Saves lives, and nobody's talking about the cigarettes.
Yeah, I mean, closing the door and not being there for our customers is is not acceptable. And that's why I've been working for, e-cig Charleston for almost 11 years now, because my boss is like, they're going to have to take me out in handcuffs. I'm not doing that to these people when cigarettes are still for sale right up the street. And that's why I'm still there, because that's the kind of fire that I need. I need to, and they fuel everything I do for advocacy and give me the time to do it, which is amazing. But, you have to be in it for the right reasons and not just in it to make a quick buck.
And I never thought I would quit smoking. It will be 13 years this 21st of April that I was actually able to quit a 2.5 pack a day habit.
I'll never forget
which
that.
I was resigned to have until the day I died.
Yep.
Right.
And so, if I did this, anybody can.
Yep. We're all sitting here, every single one of us, because we have a story like that. Because we never thought we'd be able to quit smoking.
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm ready for the FDA to start presenting some of those stories, some of those, hey, vaping can help you quit smoking, which kills you. Yes.
Well,
some of those.
That's the irony in it all, Philip, really, isn't it? I mean, the vast majority of these same federal orgs and federally funded orgs kind of all had a different stance many years ago, and it seems as though their position has done a complete 180. They went from, this is a reasonable option for you to help you quit smoking, to all of a sudden, it's got formaldehyde in it. So that, going back a little bit earlier on your conversation, Chris, you said a guy walked in wanting a formaldehyde-free vape. Do you find that it's still pretty miraculous that people will still, even in the eyes of their own doubt or their fears, that they still will walk into the vape shops looking to try to quit with vaping? I would certainly think that would deter them 100%.
Well, I think people know smoking kills, right? Like every day when I was going to bed, I thought, man, I got to quit. I've got to quit. The decades piling up, 30 years later, we know it's killing us. We can feel it. I couldn't, my son was little at that time, and just to run across the yard twice, I had to stop. I had to hold up. I can't breathe. And literally, it was like I was being choked out. So everybody knows the science is in, it's conclusive, it's undebatable. It kills you, period. And so I think all of us are looking for a way. And I think when people come in, and as much as I hate it, like I hate the words popcorn and lung being put together in any form or fashion, it's super.
Strike it from the dictionary. Strike it.
Oh my gosh, 100%, just stop. And, but like Ali said, the education part of it is good. But when they come in, at least I'm going to say that their fear of dying from cigarettes, which we know will kill you, I think that overcomes this fear mongering, I think, in some cases. And people are desperate. They want to get this habit out of, the gum didn't work, the patch didn't work, pills don't work. And they come and try to find something that mimics the action, And so I think, I guess to answer your question, I think it steers some people away, because basically I'm the guy that if I see you vaping, we're going to chat. If I see you smoking a cigarette, we're going to chat. I like to approach strangers and just start talking to them and have candid conversations with them. And most of the time, people are pretty receptive to that. But a lot of times I get dismissed too. It's like, that's just as bad. What's the difference? And I like my Camels, or I like my whatever,
Right.
I smoked Marlboro Southern Cuts, not to throw them a thing, but they were good. Not going to lie. I liked them. They weren't good for me. But I think that, people want to quit smoking bad enough that the fear mongering, they'll come in to kind of check it out. They'll look at your reviews. We're the #1 rated shop anywhere around here. And they'll look at those reviews and kind of see, and I respond to every review. And just so that I'm active, they see that I'm active in this, and I've got a passion for them to quit. And when they come in, They get a sense. I've got a great team here. And real quick, e-cig outlet in Charleston, there's one shop there. The owner has shops in New Jersey. Am I correct?
No, we're just in South Carolina. Yeah.
Just in Charleston. Okay.
Yeah.
Because there was a shop I went to there because my brother used to live in Charleston. There was one really terrible shop I went to that they didn't know anything. And then the other shop, the guy did a great job of walking her around the store, just like I would train my employees to do. He was fantastic. So different store. But anyway, but we're always excited to get people in just to kind of educate them. And a lot of times, especially, and it's the wind in our sails, especially during 2019, I'm on the road, I'm not with my family. I mean, hotels sound great. They suck. And it sucks sleeping away from your family and just not being with your kids and whatnot. So when I would be in town, if we did a conversion, if we converted somebody, man, that just refilled the tank and I'm ready to go fight more.
Yeah.
It's so awesome, that feeling of getting somebody to trust in you and, ignore all the BS and just jump in and make this commitment. It's fantastic.
Hey, how do you share a picture or a file?
I don't know if you have access to it. It would there should be a small little toolbar, and one says present.
Slides, video file. Let me see.
It would be. Are you on a laptop?
I'm actually on my desktop with
Okay,
Chrome.
look at the bottom of your screen below our little pictures. There should be a mute, stop cam settings, and present.
All right, press Command D. I'm in a Mac, so this might confuse a little.
Yes, well, that's right. If you can at least get it as a guest, because basically your share will come up, or you can give me the link and I can share it. Either way we want to.
That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna send it to you because I want you to actually I'm gonna just kind of jump on what Chris is saying, and this is what it's all about. And I want to send you this link real fast. I gotta find your text here.
No problem.
While I'm doing this.
Well, while he's doing this, Tim, I sent you a link to the from the Center for Tobacco Free Kids website that shows a breakdown of what states are spending their MSM money as far as the percentages of what they are supposed to be spending.
Let's share. Let's talk about that right after we get done with this one. So I'll bring up what Danny wanted to share. He sent a picture here. So hold on one second. Slides. Now they've changed up the share screen. That's what I want. They've changed up the way that it looks now, so it kind of screws me up. All right.
Yeah, and I'm a Mac browser. I'm not familiar with this.
There you go.
That is what we do. Why we do what we do. That is signed over packs of cigarettes, cans of dip. I got jewels in there. I got a whole bunch of stuff. This is one location, each one hand signed by a customer. That's why we opened our doors. That's why we're here. That's why we're on this show right now.
That's incredible.
Where did it go? It disappeared on me. Hold on. Let me stop. Hold on. Let me do that again. Let me bring it back. I don't know why it disappeared on me. That was weird.
I could have sworn I saw a pack of Marlboro mediums.
Yeah, these.
Well, that was the thing. So I mean, this would be your traditional smoke shop, right?
Well, this is in my vape shop. I have a quarters wall, and this is the first thing you see when you walk down. That's in the center of my store, and I highlight that and light it up. And people sign it and they date it the day they quit, and they become a lifelong customer, or they, we have the worst business model ever. They'll eventually quit nicotine, and then they just won't be a customer anymore. But they'll stop in and say hi. But that's what we do this for. This is exactly why we're in this business. And if you're not in this business for this picture right here, then get the hell out.
You have no business. Yeah. You have no reason to be involved.
I mean, you're in it for the money.
You're not in this to help people quit smoking.
That's exactly right.
I see the bastards right there, lower right corner.
Yeah. Well, 4/21 is my birthday. That's why I said I'll never forget that date, Phillip. So congratulations on you. You're going to be celebrating your anniversary here soon.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
That's such a great idea. More vape shops should do that to kind of let people see what others are putting behind them finally for the last time. And so that they'll be able to extend their life, potentially reverse some of the negative impacts cigarettes have had on their bodies, and then ultimately, just sort of revel in the success story to be here longer for their families, for their kids, for their own parents, all the different success stories. I think that's a great way to share it, because that does levy the impact of, and I don't think the Gen Q public, the people that really don't have a dog in the fight, it's so easy to say, well, just go cold turkey or go get some gum or something like that. And it's like, they can't quite fathom.
No, they don't get it.
The hurdle that is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the majority of us were 20-something years, 25 years, 30 years, some longer than that. I mean, if you can nip it in the bud quicker with vaping, fantastic. But that just speaks volumes right there. I think that is a statement. It's basically a statement. Great idea.
Yeah, and we're a 21 over store also. You can't even get in our doors unless you're 21. And I have a tourist store down in Pigeon Forge, which is like being in Candyland, Disneyland. It's just tourism central.
I've been there.
And yeah, okay. So you can't really get in there. And I mean, I piss off a lot of people because they come from some states. I'm not necessarily a fan of the 21 or over law, but it's 21 or over. We pass it in Tennessee, we pass it federally. So guess what? That's the law. So I mean, I'll get tourism from all around the country, and they'll try to come in the store. And unfortunately, hey, you're not old enough. So we do this for adults. We don't want kids to do this at all. I mean, and Chris touched on this a lot in our last interview. Basically, school systems need to, suspend their kids. Parents need to be fined if they're finding them in schools. People need to be parents. And then, of course, kids are going to be kids. There's going to be a percentage. They're going to get it. Like they get their beer or whatever. But I'm trying to get adults off that. I don't want a 55-year smoker. I want people not to smoke. I'm trying to get them. I had an 80-year-old gentleman, matter of fact, doing my store right now in Jefferson City. He's a scrapper. He's 80 years old and he collects scrap. He's like metal. And I'm working on the building. So he's coming around and he's smoking his cigarettes at 80 years old. And, and he goes, well, what you putting in here, Sonny? And I said, well, I got a vape shop coming in here. I said, I'm going to get you off those cigarettes. He goes, oh man, it's been a long time. He goes, but I heard they're just as bad as cigarettes, as vaping. And I said, no. I said, you're watching the wrong news channel or you're reading the wrong newspaper. I said, when we're ready, and the store's open, you come in. So he's got a commitment at 80 years old. He's going to come in, and I'm going to get him a vape pen at 80 years old to get him off cigarettes. And
fantastic.
I'm tickled to death to do it. So this is what it's about. This is exactly what it's all about.
And I think that speaks volumes to your fight, right? Because it's the individuals like that are 60 plus, 70 plus, 80 plus, and beyond, that will be, forgive the poor parallel here, but they'll be basically ass out, because if the vape shops get taken away and the safe spaces that they can go to acquire the products that are helping them, they're going to have nowhere to turn. Now, that doesn't mean that they'll make a connection along the way and they'll have a good buddy in the vapor industry that will get them the safe products that they need. I just, you have to have a lot of empathy for people like that who aren't wrapped up. I mean, he at least had the premonition that vaping was worse than smoking, or at least equally as bad. So he's obviously seeing headlines and watching the news. But it's those people that are going to be summarily challenged the most, because a lot of them may not be able to get around. They can't travel. They can't drive to the vape shop. If they can't get those products, then, that's an unfortunate, loss right there, because unless they are hell bent on quitting, odds will be they'll go back to smoking.
Right. A well-educated customer base doesn't mean anything because you're trying to reach beyond your customer base. Mm-hmm. I educate every customer that comes into my door. Now they know vaping is healthier and safer than smoking, but it's grabbing the people that are still out there. And the headlines, unfortunately, are stopping them from coming in. And we have some vape shops, struggling in the TSFA in different jurisdictions around the state where they get very negative press. And it's very difficult to combat that press without money to do press releases, to press against it. Again, Dimitri and Brent were going to put together a campaign in 2018, and then Avali hit, and that got put on hold. But we wanted to do a big campaign, get ahead and talk about how vaping was, 95% safer, and talk about the how good it was, at least in the state of Tennessee. That's what they were talking about doing. I was not involved with that particular campaign, but it had been discussed in the TSFA meetings. And of course, Avali came and everything got put on hold. And then, we just went through COVID. But it'd be nice to be able to have a little bit of cash in our pocket, stop throwing it at the legislation, and put it into the press, and actually turn them around and get the actual customers, to see the truth. Trying to penetrate the truth right now in this world, in this country. I don't think there's any common sense anywhere across the board. I think everything's upside down. I think there's just left, right. There's no center anymore. I don't know why people can't find common ground. This is about health. This is about healthcare.
It's also important to point out, even if they are products from 1997. The FDA has approved certain vaping products as appropriate for the protection of public health, and that's something I can't state that often enough, because people are constantly, well, this is just as bad as smoking. Well, even if they are 16, 23, whatever, just god awful old cigalikes, but I think that it bears mentioning as many times as you can, because people are constantly saying, well, we don't know what's in that. Well, the FDA has authorized these to help people stop smoking. So obviously, well, our our own government believes that they can help people stop smoking, and they are safer than cigarettes. At the end of the day, what isn't safer than cigarettes?
Yeah,
it's a good point. Very fair point. So I'm going to ask one more question, and I'm going to bring up Chris's link, which will we can talk more about the MSA. My question to you guys is being that you're actually vape shop owners and involved in the storefront aspect of it as well, I will just naturally presume that you reach out, or at least from time to time try to push out messaging to some of the other local vape shops, not ones that you own, to try to communicate bills or legislation or calls to action, or just information about vaping, or anything that the storefronts can do themselves to try to combat it at the store face. My question to you was, do you in that effort, do you ever come across any particular vape shops in the whole of Tennessee that seem to be just sort of ignorant to what's going on around them, and that they're just kind of there trying to make a buck here, make a buck there while they can before somebody shuts them down? Do you find that the vast majority of shop owners have kind of fallen into the advocacy space as well, and that they are doing what they can to try to combat the myths as people walk
in? So in where I'm at, before the landscape has kind of shifted, we've lost a lot of shops in our area, which is unfortunate. But when I took this shop over in 2017, I made it a point to go introduce myself to all the shops around here. I had visited most of the shops around here as a consumer, so I knew which shops were okay and whatever. But I went around so there wasn't a bunch of misinformation as about who I was and what I'm about. I just shake their hand; they get to meet me face to face, and we built up this kind of rapport, because like our shop doesn't really cater to mech mods or building guys, whatever, right, guys and gals that like to build coils. So we would send them to this other shop that had more wire and stuff like that. We had people, like older people that had smaller devices, whatever, they'd find their way to another shop. I mean, over the time, we've got everything now for that. But when stuff would come up like this, I would make it a point. So like, remember when we were facing that threat of a federal bill, and like, a bottle of Salt Nick was going to be, $300, crazy, ridiculous.
Yeah.
I printed out flyers and I went around to the shops around here, even the shady shops I went to, and just to give them this information. It was real simple. Bring your customer, have them scan the QR code. This takes you right to a page. There's a letter to your lawmaker in your area based on your address. Everything's filled out. All you gotta do is do this and you're done. And I would help train them, like a customer. Hey, you got a second? Everybody's got the smartphone in their pocket. Hey, scan this QR code, do this. And that's what I do. Nobody's ever come to me like that, because usually in our area, I'm the one that drives that train. And a lot of shop owners will call me to find out what's happening, because they're not keeping track of it themselves, which is a little frustrating, frankly. But I don't mind to share the information, or to go to their shop and hang out for an hour or 2 hours and help their employees understand how to talk to your customers. I could demonstrate that while I'm there. And this is before I had anything to do with TSFA other than being a member, but I just want people to know, we see a lot of apathy. I've seen a lot of apathy going to different vape rallies and stuff all over the country. And they say, well, Allie's going, so I don't need to waste my gas. She'll cover it. And that's just not right. We all need to be there. I was infuriated. I went to Washington State. I mean, I'm from Tennessee. I have Jay Inslee has no control over my life at the moment, right? And here I'm coming all the way from Tennessee out there, and I'm going to vape shops, and I'm seeing the sadness that is, 95% of their juice has gone off the wall. They got a little sliver of tobacco flavors. And anybody that knows me knows I buy something in every shop I visit. So I bought a lot of really bad e-liquid on that trip. It was terrible. It was all tobacco flavors. It was gross. But but I get there and they had a group, I won't name names, but they had a group that wanted to do advocacy another way, and they had another group that was trying to do a state org. Well, because the state org people were there, this group didn't attend. And I'm like, first thing I always say is we've got to put our differences aside. Yes, we can hate each other later, but for now we need numbers. We need numbers at these capitals. We need that, and it's important to go to these shops and kind of get them. And that's what we were doing. We're going to shops, we're dropping off stuff so that they could attend this rally. We want the numbers there. Even if you got to close your shop for a couple hours, I know you're losing business, but you're going to lose all your business if you're not here at these rallies. Let these lawmakers know your position. I've gone into shops all over the country, and I mean, with this same message, and I mean, but some shops don't care. Some shops are like, whatever, and Danny knows that all too well. So yeah.
So they just ride the storm out and hope for the best, I guess, is sort of their stance at this point. That's unfortunate. All right, so let's share this link that Chris sent over from Tobacco Free Kids. Give me 1 second. Let that link pull up.
Oh, I'm dizzy with anticipation. What have we here?
Well, hopefully I can make this one a little bit bigger, because I tried to make that picture bigger, and every time I clicked bigger, it made it smaller, which was frustrating.
Tim, please don't.
All right.
So
as long as I can keep the article content. Is there a graphic I can look at?
Scroll, there's a state map, and when you drag your mouse over different states, it shows you. Keep going down. Right here. So you can mouse over Tennessee, for example, or Georgia or whatever. Go up to the state map. The picture up above is interactive.
Okay. So
you can see.
Whoops.
Yeah, the money they're spending. Is this telling you
2.6%?
CDC
that's
spending,
percentage of CDC recommended spending. That's what they say is recommended from them.
That's what
I'm
this
pretty
is.
sure they'll follow that guideline.
They did with COVID restrictions, right?
Yes.
But if you look up to, let's see, if you scroll down, well, just kind of, I mean, you can surf through there and kind of see what.
So let's see. Texas was ranked 51st. They got 3.5 million in state spending, industry marketing of 670 million. And the percent of CDC recommended spending was 264.1. Is that what equates to 1.3? Is that
must
the number?
be. I'm going to our state real quick to see.
Yeah, they spent 3.5 million out of a recommended 264.1 million. Right. So that's 1.3.
Cheapskates. They're not trying that hard.
Well done. Well done.
Well, let's see about my state. So we're right underneath Tennessee. So we're ranked 48th, 2.1 million industry marketing, 360.9 million. Let's just call it 361. And recommended CDC was 106. So they only spent 2%.
Yeah, and Georgia. So for Georgia specifically, they got, what does this say here? So they received $412.3 million. CDC recommended $106 million spend. They spent $2.1 million. So they're not using this money. Lawmakers are funny because they like to just tax the shit out of us, and it's really annoying. And once they do this, they're not using this money for what it was earmarked for. These states get this in their general fund, and then it just vanishes. And that's why I was saying it's really frustrating.
Yeah.
And then they want to add a tax to us for this exact purpose when they already have funds coming in for that purpose.
True.
Where is that money? That's what we want to know. Where's that money going?
It goes to infrastructure. I mean, it goes to all kinds of different things, but it's not going for what it was earmarked for. That's a fact.
Right.
If we're educating people. Yeah.
Well, it looks like Maine and Oregon at least are the ones that are following the recommendations. So I'm not sure of the vaping laws in Maine and Oregon specifically, but according to their books, they actually spent the full amount. What does green mean? States that are spending up to 50%, 50 to 99% of CDC recommended. Orange is 25 to 50. The yellow ones are 10 to 24, and gray is just spending way less than what was recommended. Red, which I didn't see one. If there is one, it's got to be one of them tiny little states, and I'm 54 and my eyes are shit. I don't see a red dot on that map at all. So red would imply states that have allocated no state funds. So there's nobody that hasn't put a little something towards it.
Chris, is this interactive currently, or is this something from the past?
Yeah. This is and basically how I find this is you can just type in CTFK MSA spending per state, I think is what I looked up.
It's the first time I've seen this. Very interesting.
Delaware. No, they were a little generous. I mean, I think it's unfortunate that you have to see a lot of this yellow and gray, just because that's we all understand what the MSA money is supposed to be for, but there's a reality as to where the MSA money truly goes, and that's quite unfortunate. So then when we talk about all of this in general, I want to get a general feeling from you, Chris and Danny. Where do you think, from an advocacy perspective, the efforts are more residual in the grander scheme of things? Do you think because I think, and I'm only asking this question because I think when you talk about advocacy, it can be tiring. I mean, it can be exhausting. It can be deflating. I mean, you probably lose more conversations than you win conversations in general, at least right now. Obviously, we want to see that tide turn. But do you feel that, and I say that too, because I think that advocacy in general, especially to the consumer advocates, the vast majority of the people that are in our chat or the people that we interact with on the daily that are just vapors, right? They get tired really quick because they're like, oh, they sign a petition, they still pass the bill. They go and speak at a legislative session, and then the bill gets passed anyway. So they kind of feel immediately deflated and want to throw in the towel. But if they had to pick a battle, do you think that maybe they should steer their concerns away from the federal side of things because that's just too big of a beast to beat, and maybe focus more at the local level?
I think you're kind of answering your question. There's multi levels of advocacy. There's the consumer level. My customers that come in that put their change in a bin that helps fight the TSFA. They'll do their surveys. They'll do their call to actions. There's the vape shop level owner that will go and work with their state reps. And then there should be manufacturers level who I believe should be with, the AVM and different federal orgs. Allie, I think you work with a lot of manufacturers, or they probably help you out. So advocacy to me is a multi-pronged approach. I concentrate strictly on Tennessee. I don't watch the PMTA process. I'm not dealing with, all the drama that's going on in DC. My job is to make sure Tennessee stays open. We don't have any issues. It's not something that I actually I was basically a shop owner, man. I was doing my dues. I was going to Nashville when we needed to go to Nashville. My customers were doing the surveys. And then when Dimitri retired, it was kind of like, he wanted to step down and go concentrate on his other endeavors. This happened in like late October, November. I mean, we've only been in charge of the TSFA for what, 6-7 months, Chris? We threw a board together and I'm still learning how to work with lobbyists, and I'm still getting stronger with, talking to my senators more often. So it's evolving. It's a multi-pronged approach. I would not want to be in Greg Conley's shoes if you paid me. I mean, the way he travels, or Allie, and you got the Lindsays and the Shars and even Amanda Wheeler going to PMI, and all these other people that are doing some of these federal sides. I mean, would I sit in a room with them? Absolutely. Would I engage with them? Absolutely. What is my focus? My focus is on Tennessee as a Tennessee Smoke-Free Association president and a board member. Yeah. But if I was just a shop member of the TSFA, I would do the shop member advocacy like I used to. And if I was a consumer, I would donate at the box like I do at the registers, and then do calls of actions. So advocacy is weary. Yeah, there takes time where you don't sleep. You're like, how do I address this? How do I deal with this? Because you don't know what the next 5 seconds is going to be. If it's going to go into committee, if it's going to get picked up by a sponsor, if it's going to get rewritten to something that can just tear you down. But you got to have two things. You got to have balls to stay in the fight, and you got to have a drive and a passion to believe in and to do what you believe in. And whether that's a consumer that's vaping and vaping saved my life, and I'm going to support this shop, or if it's a shop owner, go, you know what, vaping is my passion. I want my local community to stay off cigarettes. That's my passion. Or if you're a manufacturer making e-liquid for shops to sell, and say, you know what, my passion is to help these shops and advocate for harm reduction. And that's my advocacy, and give money or fight that way. So very difficult, complex question, but it's very simple. Everybody take their own advocacy and use it where they can. There's too many people bitching and complaining. And it started in the beginning. We had a lot of different orgs that were just fighting for who was going to be the cat's ass. And, I just say, you know what, shut up and show up, do your job.
Yeah.
Come in and unite, stand together. If you stand separated, you're not going to go anywhere. You stand together, you make progress. You walk in the sand, you leave footprints. If you just stand there and you're fighting with each other, you're just making a mud pile. So my goal is just, like I said, push Tennessee forward, get legislation passed that's going to put us in the rearview mirror with RGR and Altria, and we're going to work with other states. That's my job. My shops that are in the TSFA, they are 100% on board, and they do their job. And then you've got the consumer that's doing their job, and then you got the alleys, and you got the Gregs. And I don't know if you can see this, but the customers like this, they sign over, they do their flavors. That's my customer. That's an advocate right there.
Yeah.
And
I guess that was why I asked the question, because I think that the average vapor, is, if they've gotten anywhere close to standing up and taking an advocacy path, this is more than just talking to your friends or your family and convincing someone else to quit smoking using vaping. I think that that's all very valid too. But the reason why I asked the question is because I feel that, vapors would feel a sense of reward just to see that they're able to make some waves and for the positive. And so that's what I was saying is, I guess there's battles that you can pick. Do you see it as being sort of a trickle up effect, that if consumer advocates want to get involved in the fight, they should look to try to secure a relationship with their local advocacy organization, similar to the Tennessee Smoke Free Association, maybe start there and kind of understand the mission and the vision and see what you guys do so that they can become involved with that? Or do you think that they should just pick one battle and go after it? I just feel like if they start at the local level, which I feel like that's where they can impede us quicker, that if they can help to defeat it locally, that maybe that sets the stage to help battle the federal government a little bit more.
100% say state first. Absolutely. It's start local first. Even your county. Work with your county people, but definitely work in your state first. What's going on in the federal government could take 3, 4, 5 more years. Who knows? Sure. But the state could get banned tomorrow. Everybody has a body of legislators in every state, and every state, has a lobbyist pushing against them. And the federal government is in DC, and they got their stuff going on. But if they pass a law in Tennessee, it's over no matter what. It's over. So if Tennessee passes something, it doesn't matter what the federal government does. So I would say stay local first. And if you want to support the federal organizations, go for it. AVM, I would highly recommend, without a doubt. And there's others out there. I'm not going to plug all these people, but you could find your favorite and deal with the people that you like to follow on Facebook and the ones that have the hardcore passion. But I would say if you're in a state, get with your state org, find out who they are. Go shop at a state org shop, somebody that actually belongs to an organization. Shop at that shop. Don't shop at some shop that's just, in it for the money. Find out if they do advocacy. If they do, guess what? Every dollar that company makes is another dollar he could take, maybe 10 cents or 5 cents or 3 cents, and put it into the advocacy or their lobbyist group. So, our motto is fight local. What is it? I can't even think now. Fight local. What is it, Chris? The state. My God, it's on my wall in my stores. Anyway, it's fight local basically, and there's another tagline to it. I can't even think, but it's always
do on to big tobacco and then run.
Global.
Shop local.
Yeah, fight local. Shop local. Thank you. Yeah, that's it.
Perfectly.
It's on my walls in my store, on my windows, along with the big old 21 or over to enter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Allie, Phillip, anything to add?
I mean, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, you have to protect your state because anything can happen, and they will bring the enforcement if something does happen, and that's unfortunate. And I think too, like, I've signed up, like all my local state reps have like an email, and typically it brings you to some website. And if you sign up for that website, they'll email you when they're having events. So you can go to these events and get in their face and talk to them about vaping because they're kind of out of their element at these events. They're having fun. They want to schmooze. And so they want to talk to you. And typically you can, kind of build a little bit of a rapport there. But I mean, it does take work, but get with your local shops. I mean, I make artwork for my job, and I make the artwork for all the SCVA members and send it out in an email blast with a scan code. Hey, scan this and reach out, to your local. I mean, I love it. Some 85-year-old woman called me and was really upset because she lives in a really rural area of South Carolina and she can't get anything shipped from us anymore because of the PACT Act. And I said to her, reach out to your local reps. If you give me your email, I'll send you all the information of where you can contact. And she goes, I'm retired, honey. I have nothing better to do with my time than harass them over this. And I'm like, well, go ahead then. And that makes me happy because I'm like, yeah, that's one more person that has seen what's going on because it's impacted them and now they want to do something about it.
And most of the legislators that I deal with, I mean, they'll make meetings and they'll sit with you, especially when they're home. If they're in Nashville or they're in their capitals, it's very difficult to schedule. But when they're home, I mean, they'll make time to meet with you. Yeah. I don't care who you are. I mean, I went to Andrew Farmer's office, his law firm. I went to his law firm. I've been with Dale Carr when I was DJing back in the day. He's an auctioneer. That's what he does, part-time. He auctioneers and he sells real estate too, believe it or not. But I've done events with him. That's how I met him at some of these DJ events. I was the DJ, he was an auctioneer, and we hit it off. And now, I mean, I'll be like, hey, Dale, what's going on? Not much. And then he'll meet at the store. We'll talk, or and you build relationships with your state reps. They will meet with you. Now, there's some out there that are tools, so we can call them a tool.
They'll still meet with you though, even if they're being.
But they will meet with you. They'll just they'll be not paying attention to you while you're talking to them.
Right. Well, and also getting good with like the administrator, their assistant too, because you'd be surprised how many of them vape. I was watching the Charleston mayor was doing something, and the person that was signing for him, I was like, that's one of my customers from back when I was in the store. And I'm like, wait, I know her name. I'm gonna call her right now because I'm like, oh my God, so you never know who actually is using these products and they're right in their ear. Yeah. They can talk to, and typically that makes an impact too, because they know these people.
Yeah. And that's again, like how Tennessee really framed it around getting to know our legislators. And we have a very strong lobby team, and we fund our lobby. We fund our organization. It's difficult to raise the money to pay for this. I mean, it's very difficult. You're putting a burden on shops to actually fight laws. I mean, it's just like, we're a shop trying to help people, and we're getting nailed with if I was a manufacturer and I wasn't giving to like advocacy or something, I'd be so ashamed that I was making money off this, well, there you go. You're going through, that's the TSFA page.
Yeah, I thought I would just share that. I mean, there is a donate button up there. So, I mean, if you are in the state of Tennessee and you want to get involved with the fight with Tennessee Smoke-Free Association, you can certainly donate money towards the organization directly from their website. But I just wanted to highlight some of the established donors and people that stand by your side throughout this fight. And obviously, they know that their donations are making a concerted effort to helping to fight the laws in Tennessee. So, I mean, obviously, we probably won't know the majority of these shops by first name.
There's some distros on there as well.
Yeah, I was looking around. I saw the Fog House in there. Severe Vapor is one of your all shops, correct? I saw a post about the sign being made for this, the sign that you had hung up in the shop.
Yeah, that's my store. Yeah, and Broadway was just up there. That's Chris's store right above mine. A couple links, and then the Broadway Vapors. There you go. You got the
I'll
vapor
share links to those.
Some of these shops and some of these people are sometimes one-time donations, multi-donation, multi-year, every year. Some are quarterly. It just whenever they give, we try to recognize them and put them on the site. So it's not just our shops that are on here. There's some manufacturers as well. See Knoxville Vapor, Rocky Top. I mean, a lot of these shops they're just hardcore advocates. Chattanooga Vapor Company is on our board. It's promoted. He has 9 stores. It's crazy. I couldn't manage. I don't know if I can manage 3. I'm going into my 3rd, and he's got 9. I mean, it's insane. The vape shop.
You'll figure.
Yeah.
You'll figure it out. I just think that this speaks volumes because, I mean, if you just look at this one small conglomerate, and then you could even say take the distros out of it, like take Naked out of it, as being a storefront type situation. But I mean, to think that if we lose this, all of these places are gone.
Right.
These are all people trying to help people quit smoking day in and day out. And they stand to lose in this if there's no preservation at the end of it all. So, I mean, this is to me a lot like the cigarette wall. You know what I mean? You got, you had one symboled shot of what people did to keep living, right? By turning in their last pack of smokes and switching to vaping, and that's on display. And then you've got this. You've got people who are in effect fighting to stay alive, not only for vaping for themselves. I'm sure the majority of them are vapors as well, but think about the numbers of people that they help, that have been proverbially saved in general terms. And if all that goes away, that's a lot more people that are going to be put in harm's way.
Yeah. And we're really lucky as an org that we have, from all the way from the west to the east. I mean, we got coverage all throughout Tennessee. So we're blessed that we have, just about every state rep covered. I mean, there's a couple that we don't have, and this website actually needs to be upgraded because since we've the boards that the new owners took it over, we're actually creating. There's a new website being built. Okay, it's actually donations@tnsmokefree.org, and I don't know if that PayPal link works. Well, I have to double check it.
Let's see. I don't think anyone will be able to see my password. Actually, it's not. Oh, it's going. Hold on. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, then we're good. All right.
According to this, it still seems to be functional.
Yeah. If anybody wants to donate, feel free. We like it to be manufacturers and shops, but if there's any consumers out there that want to help that live in the state of Tennessee, we really don't want to take out-of-staters. We want them to fight in their own state. So if you live in Oregon or if you live in Arkansas, give to your state.
Yep. Completely agree with you there. Okay, so that leads me into. Oh, I guess it just quit when I closed the tab. How convenient. God, I love technology. So I had some questions from weeks past, but they seem like they're decent questions that might stick rather well. So we've seen a lot of changes in the vapor industry over the years. So if we all look back in our mental Rolodex of where we began with the blue Cigalikes and the little vape pens and the plastic cartomizers and silica wick and all that fun shit that we all had to kind of battle through to get to where we are now. A lot of things potentially you could say put us on the radar, made us more visible. But that aside, so I'm talking about silly things like the vape vest and stuff like that, things that were just kind of over the top and completely unnecessary. But if you had the ability to travel back in time, say take yourself back 10 full years into this journey in general, if you could go back that far, if there's one thing that you could potentially change, if you could reverse the past a little bit, that we would have stood a little bit more positive shot at maybe standing up to what this landslide that we kind of ran into. Is there anything about the vapor industry that you probably would have liked to have changed that may have swapped the trajectory a little bit?
I think I think if the industry had been united in promoting this life-saving technology as that, and we had a united front on the the health advantages of the product, and I'm not knocking anybody for what they did here, but with what I'm about to say, but instead of focusing on like cloud comps and tricks and all this kind of stuff, I mean, that's fun. It has a place, sure, whatever. Yeah, it wasn't my thing. It's not Danny's thing. But if we as an industry had, the foresight to look ahead and say, listen, let's take an approach like the UK takes. Okay. It's not cool for kids. Like, kids aren't looking at it necessarily over there. I mean, now with disposables, they're freaking everywhere. But
Yeah.
if we would have taken a more professional medical sort of feel to it, like, hey, we want you to quit smoking. Come in. Let's help save your life. Help you. You can smell better. You can taste better. All these advantages. You're not hacked crap up every day. It's just advantageous. If we would have taken more of that approach, but I think we saw a lot of egos. Nobody wanted to work together. Oh, we'll do a video, but we're going to be the sponsor. I got to have my logo down in the corner and things like that. There's too much of that, and that's why I get annoyed. We're under attack, and it's there is no ego, man. Put all that aside. I mean, we don't have time for this. Sorry, my phone's ringing at my shop, but
That's okay.
Probably vapors.
But we're closed. But if we would have had more of that united kind of I guess optics back then, I think we could probably avoid some of this. But I think really what it boils down to, and this is going to sound a little crazy, but follow me here. When the MSA was signed in '98, there was a projected, people were already quitting smoking. The science was in, we already knew we were dying from it. So people were already starting cold turkey, whatever, big pharma stuff, whatever. So there was a natural, what I call a declination of smokers rates, right? So when vaping came on the scene, it took this, say they predicted like a 3 to 5% drop over year over year. Well, they could then estimate tobacco bonds and values and whatnot. And they were at that point in time a safe harbor for money, whatever. So a lot of these states. But when vaping came on the scene, it helped accelerate that rate. So now instead of 3 to 5%, maybe we see like 5 to 7, maybe to 9%. So it's people are dropping out of the smoking game faster. And I think that pinched states' budgets. A lot of states, I think it was Bear Stearns was one of the first to approach him, you got a big settlement, get your cash now, right? So they went to these states. In a lot of cases, they sold out for like 40 cents on a dollar. So they gave away 60% of this money to these organizations. And when it came time to pay some of this stuff up, they're broke, and these states were mismanaged anyway. I mean, our infrastructure in America is horrendous, our bridges, our rail system, our power grid. And a lot of these states, well, we need that money now. I got to fix this bridge, or I got to fix this railway, or I got to fix whatever. And I just think this series of consequences, and we come along and we're kind of I hate to say this because the vaping industry in general, like in the grand scheme of things, is not big. This is big to a lot of us that are in it, but to the average citizen in America, most of them didn't smoke. And then the ones that maybe did smoke, maybe they were former smokers from other things I mentioned. And so really the people that I'm most concerned with are people like we just converted a month ago or today, or, people like myself who's been in it for like 8 years. I've been a vape for 8+ years, but we care, but man, we're a really small percentage of the population, to be honest. And, but I think when Big Tobacco saw that, we're losing this revenue, and the states say, hey, our MSA money is dwindling, well, who's at fault? And again, I know people are going to think I'm crazy for saying this, but when you start adding up all the components, you start looking at all the pieces of the puzzle, you get a clearer picture of what could possibly be happening. And like I said, in Massachusetts, hearing them say, if a percentage of you go back to smoking, I mean, we're broke. We could use the tax dollars,
Yeah.
That's disgusting to me. I almost fell out of my chair. I was at my cousin's house in Connecticut. I was drinking a couple beers, listening to this because it was like 10 hours. And when I heard that, I said, I cannot believe they actually said this. Yeah, it's disgusting.
What little money they have left is going toward their illegal tobacco task force at the moment. So they have problems of their own. What I keep thinking about is the sense of urgency that we're lacking in terms of mostly lower middle income people who smoke, who are literally getting the worst of all this, the misinformation that they are constantly bombarded with, whether it be to save the kids or what have you. These are the people who are most desperately in need of harm reduction, who are the least likely to get it because they don't know that it's actually something that can help them. And the fact that we're still screwing around with PMTAs in 2023, these people are now 6 years more entrenched into their tobacco, their cigarette smoking habit. It's appalling to me. And that's my rant for tonight.
The last capital I visited before COVID kind of took me off the road was Lansing, Michigan. And here's what I noticed up there. Nobody liked Gretchen Whitmer, so there's that. But I would go into these offices, and if you were to take a group of people in America and say, which group of people has the highest incidence of smoking rates, it's probably our LGBTQ community. Okay.
Yeah.
So I would go into these offices. I'm visiting Democrats, Republicans. I don't really give a shit. To me, it's not a partisan issue. It's a humankind issue.
Yeah.
But
Thank you.
I go into these offices and you see the rainbow colors, and I don't care about all that stuff. But I know darn well, just from the vibe, they were throwing our stuff right in the trash as soon as we left. And I'm like, okay, so on one hand, you advocate for this group. Our products are what could save that group's life, and they could live longer, live a healthier life. I mean, what people do is their own business. It's not my business, but that is my business. If that group is the highest incidence of smokers, like as a group, I want you to hear our message. I want you to try our products. I want you to get off of cigarettes because that's going to kill you. It's 100% fact. And it's aggravating to see lawmakers advocate for that, but not for their health.
Yeah.
And that's just the general vibe we got out there. And it irritated the hell out of me.
I can imagine so. I mean, because I think the legislators sometimes, maybe they're just pulling wool over our eyes, but I think they fail to see the trees for the forest, and they just seem to think that we're some outlier crowd of people who doesn't have any good intentions at all. Somehow we stumbled onto this really horrible product, and we live under the misnomer that somehow all of us have a stake in big tobacco, which is a bunch of bullshit.
I'm still waiting for my first check from Big Tobacco.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
If Shirk Tahir had anything to say about it, he would, he's laughing as you're waiting for your check there, because he's confident you are Big Tobacco, Phillip. He's confident.
Yeah, he's thinking something.
He even levied that against
monosyllabic
Charles
way,
Gardner the other day. Wanted to know, how that money was doing from Big Tobacco. Charles put him in his place. Anyway, I just think they feel.
I want to answer that question that you asked. You asked Chris, and Chris answered, but I just want to kind of
absolutely anybody wants to.
Mind if I add to a little bit?
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
All right, if we look back 10 years, you say you want to look back 10 years. What could it be have done different? And I'm actually looking. I've only been in the business 9, but I'm watching what's going on in Tennessee with the Tennessee Healthy Alternatives Association. That's the hemp industry. Okay, so I'm going to switch gears just for a little bit. Back 9-10 years ago, we had a bunch of children pretty much coming together and trying to, put on half-naked women shows and stuff and do all this crap that gave us a bad stigmata, all these, cartoons on bottles and stuff. Well, I'm watching the hemp industry in Tennessee, led by JD and Sam Oshlin, and the Tennessee Healthy Alternatives have actually taken a bill, and they got it through the Senate Judiciary Committee, and then it just went through the criminal subcommittee 16-0 for the state of Tennessee. So what they did was they learned their lessons from the vape industry, what we did wrong, 10 years ago. They're applying, we're not going to do that. We're going to get ahead of all this, and we're going to regulate ourselves. Now, unfortunately, 10 years ago, there's two things going on. One, people were trying to get rich, and they were doing whatever they can to do that. And then there was others, of course, in harm reduction. We were all in it for harm reduction on the shop side for the most part, I think. But some of the childish advertisement, childish bottles, the names, the trademarks, the stuff that got cleaned up eventually put a stigmata on the industry that set us back. And that's why in 2018, when I said Dimitri was trying to put together a campaign to try to, at least through Tennessee, to try to get that healthy alternative, where, clean up our act. Because we had an industry that was basically, it was just no man's land. It was everybody just running wild. Then the FDA stepped in and they wanted to do regulations, and everybody freaked out. It's like, what? You're going to regulate our product? Yeah. Well, we had a bunch of clowns. We had some really good companies, and we still do, but we had some clowns out there that gave our industry a really bad reputation. And unfortunately, we've been trying to come back from that ever since.
but they're still piling it on. It's still about harm reduction. The science is still there. The truth is still there. I think they try to carry some of that over. But I would try to change some of that. If I go back 10 years, I'd be like, all right, let's not do the half naked women, shows with the conventions and all that stuff. Let's not do this Instagram post with this. Let's try to keep it more mainstream so we can reach that 80, 70, 60-year-old person and not get them turned off because they've read an article or they've seen something or whatever. And of course, we wouldn't have had that whole kid thing going on, which I think is bullshit. That word epidemic to me it doesn't exist in my vocabulary. I
think we're all kind of tired of hearing about that.
Yeah, when I hear that word, I just ignore it. It's like, whoop, yeah, they just said something. I don't know. It's a lie.
Well, we have it from the source that it's no longer.
Brian King finally said that they are not using that term anymore. So everyone stands to be corrected.
But Danny, I definitely don't disagree with you on any of those points. I think we were all, when my friends opened Vulcan Vape a million years ago, my friend Wes was wandering around with a metal suitcase and ego teas and bits and pieces of totally wicked crap from God knows where. And the fact that it worked, I spent the next year after I almost it took me about 14 months of dual use to completely quit smoking. During that time, I looked through every paper ever published about e-liquids, e-cigarettes, this technology, just because I was convinced it was killing me faster than combustible tobacco. Really? So it turns out, Jesus, it was the real deal. And I didn't understand why more people in this country weren't wildly aware of it, because the only thing people knew about me at that point was I was really smart. I was doing really well in commercial real estate, and I smoked more than any two people on the planet.
Your legacy.
And I could barely tolerate myself. So, like I said a million times before, it took me 14 months. We're talking Boba's Bounty wasn't always available down the street at that time and place. And having to order 36 milligram freebase from the UK isn't exactly convenient or cheap. So with those limitations as far as supply goes, I was still able to take my Tornado tea and quit smoking. Yeah, this is a public health milestone. These things happen never. Call it what you want. Is it something that we've taken for granted? I've always known that we would eventually have to be regulated. The question is, what do we do about it now? I think everything that you said about making waves at the local level makes all the sense in the world. I myself have really enjoyed listening to you gentlemen talk to me about what you've done with your state org since it landed. It sounds like Dimitri left it to you to figure things out, and I applaud everything you're doing. Thank you. Thank you for talking with us.
All right, we're getting close to running out of time, so I'm going to ask the one big banger of a question. The one
Sorry,
the
that was a
hardest
rant.
question
I didn't mean
advocates around can have the hardest time answering this question, because it's a hypothetical, so it isn't really real, and maybe that's why. So I'm going to ask both Chris and Danny. So if you were standing in front of the Congress right now, and you can answer this question independently, and they said, all right, Danny, all right, Chris, here's the thing. We're going to let you keep vaping. We're going to let you keep the industry and continue to service your customers. But there's one thing about vaping in the current day in this situation, and I'm not talking about federal laws. I'm talking about just the vapor industry itself. What one thing, if you had to, would you be willing to concede about vaping if it meant saving the entire remainder of it? What's one thing you'd be willing to say, you know what, if that shit was gone, or that thing is gone, or that thing is gone, and I get to keep the rest, all the flavors, all the devices, whatever, what one thing would you be willing to get rid of? And I know there's a reality to this question. We don't want to lose any of it. But
well,
Chris, you going to go first?
Sure. I won't have a popular answer because a lot of people I would think would lean towards we get rid of Juul or we get rid of disposables or we get rid of this or that, right? I've got real hard stances on things either way. I mean, like Juul, in the position you're in right now, when we went to DC in November of 2019 for the vape rally, a lot of people are like, oh, F Juul, they're terrible, blah, blah. But here's the thing. We wouldn't be able to walk around touting numbers like we got 14 million vapors in the USA without Juul. Let's accept that as a fact, because that is a fact. We're not, and I wish we were, but like Broadway Vapors is not creating 14 million vapors, right? Severe Vapor is not making 14 million vapors. Juul did that. Right. Juul brought a lot of people into there. Your Mark 10s, your Blues, and I hate to say these products, but I mean, that's what I started on. I started on a V2 e-cig. I bought it out of Florida somewhere, just refillable little thing.
Yeah.
It's tough. I mean, for me,
Logic Platinum.
I like recycling. So call me a tree hugger, turtle lover, whatever you want to call me. I hear all kinds of stuff. But dude, I recycle at my house. It cuts my trash down to like nothing. So, and I do all that. I've been doing that for so long. I don't even know how to not do it. But so when disposables first were introduced to me in 2019, it was at that Vapors Carnival, and I can't remember the company that had them. But I asked them, I said, what are you guys doing with these as far as like, are you going to have a recycling program? Like I collect them back from my customers at the shop, we mail them to you. You guys, responsibly take care of these. I don't like the environmental impact. I mean, a cigarette butt is annoying enough. A disposable in the trash or on the street or whatever, that's a problem, Yeah. So something had to go, and I was hard pressed against the wall. I would have to say disposables, but every day they're our number one seller. So it's kind of hard. If I'm not selling them, everybody else sells them. So, I mean, but that's probably the one that I hate the most. And that's the reason why, is the environmental impact of those. I mean, I think they're great. They're convenient. I mean, I'm still carrying this thing around. I don't mind carrying it around. But if I'm at the beach, man, a disposable is pretty darn convenient. Yeah, I mean, I like the way these hit. So I think disposable would be the thing I would say would sacrifice. But like I said, they have a place on the market. Anything that steers people away from it. And that's the thing too. My worst, the customer I hated the most, and I swear to God, this is a true story. The kid would come in scratching his arm. Hey, bro, man, you got that 50 neck? And I'm like, you're a day over 18. Before they went to teach. You're a day over 18. 50 neck, you don't need that. That's a lot.
I told you not to make fun of me over that. It was a one-time thing. Come on, Chris. Damn. I was hurting that day.
Sorry.
Yeah, well, you know what, Chris? Go ahead.
I was just saying disposables for me. Yeah, I'll just end it there. I mean, disposables, I think it's too much.
As unpopular as that one might appear, that is one that we get quite often. Is if we could get rid of the disposable market, maybe it would take some of the eyes off of us a little bit, because that seems to be the inflated thing. Danny?
Well, the closed system, the disposables rather, they I mean, like Chris said, they have a use. I mean, you get that 4-day smoker that smokes Marlboro Reds. He needs that 50 nick. I mean, he's not going to need it forever, but he needs that to help him transition down. So the Juul was kind of invented for that, but they were invented to keep people on them. We want to actually step them down. So, I mean, if we were to say the disposables, which I mean, I'm not a fan of getting rid of them either. I would say I just want everything made in the U.S. If it's going to be any e-liquid that we're going to be vaping, has to be in the U.S. That's what I would say. That's what I would want. I wouldn't want anything shipped over to China, filled, and come brought back. I would say, listen, everything has to be made in the U.S. and, FDA regulated under the guidance of that lab that fills these devices. And I mean, I'm libertarian, man. I mean, I believe in just, no government. Get the hell out of our way. So I really don't want any regulation. I'm willing to work with lawmakers, don't get me wrong, but to give up something, that's a loaded question, man. As soon as you answer that question, your ass is on the line to do something. I am never going to answer that question. I'm not willing to give up anything.
I just kind of throw it out there as a hypothetical, because you hear it come up time and time again. Like, people are mad at Juul, or people are mad because of disposables, or people are mad because of cloud comps, or people are mad because, somebody just tried to get rich quick, or or exploited the industry in some way, shape, or form. So it's just a curious question.
I think my original answer was Salt Nick, and I got booed off the show. I can't believe you guys invited me.
There's actually, I mean, there's a lot of customers I have 25,000 people in my database, and I sell a lot of salt nicotine. I sell a lot of disposables. So, I mean, do I sell, I don't sell anything that burns in my store. So I'm a hybrid shop without the flour and all that combustible stuff. My stores will never sell anything that lights on fire. We have other stores in our org that's hybrid, full-blown head shop, purist shops. I don't care. If you sell vape, advocate, join the TSFA. So, I don't give concession to anybody telling me you can't do this. If it's harm reduction, I mean, why restrict yourself and give something away? Now, the cloud comps, this was all part of our history. We had to learn and grow and evolve. Everybody had to place their foot in the ground and kind of learn who they were going to be in the industry. They were fighting for territory as far as shops were concerned. You had your juice manufacturers fighting for your shelf space. So there was a lot of bitching and back and forth, in the beginning, and it was tough on the industry, and it took a beating, and we all know it. And we know why it happened. It was an evolution of this industry that didn't have a governing body to say, hey, we're going to do. There was no template. There was no model. We came from nothing. We came and we built it up ourselves. So if we had somebody that said, hey, this is the way you do it, like the hemp industry is doing right now, sorry, they've watched us, so they know their little brother or their big brother, the vape industry, is soon to be their little brother if they blow up like I think it's going to do it. In some states, other places expand, but they've watched us make these, mistakes and different things that we've done along the way. So, to go back and change it, no, you can't do it. All you got to do is keep pushing the truth, and it's harm reduction until you drill it through these people's heads and then find out really what they want. Find out what your legislators want. Yeah. That's the first question. What do you want? What are you looking for? I'm looking for this, this, and this. Okay, I can help you with that. Don't go to RJR to regulate my industry. This is our industry, not big tobacco's industry. Correct. This is the vape industry, not big tobacco, not Altria, not Philip Morris, and not RJ Reynolds. Get the hell out of our way. Let us do our thing. Yeah.
I think that's a fantastic point to end on. And I would wholeheartily agree with you, is that what you would like to see is more open arms from legislators to have, even if they have to have the debate, to open their arms a little bit to having the vapor industry be able to sit down alongside the anti and big tobacco or whoever else you want to throw in the pot, and allow us to at least put our commentary in the hat. You know what I mean? They can't always seem to get it. It seems unfair that they only get their advisement from one side. It just seems severely lopsided.
And never be afraid to have a conversation with anyone, regardless of how vehemently anti-vaping they might seem on the outside. You never know. You never know.
I mean, how much does the industry, the big tobacco, have of the vaping industry compared to the vape shops and all of the convenience stores selling it? I mean, our vape products, not the 23 PMTA or 20. So the vape industry is us. It's not big tobacco. And I don't care if RJR and Altria want to spit that lie out every 5 minutes that they're the vaping industry. They're not. People need to know that they're not. We represent.
This is a consumer-driven innovation.
That's exactly right.
Is, always will be. Period.
Always, always.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we're about 10 minutes over, so we're gonna. Philip, do you have something else to add? You look like you were going to talk. Sorry.
No.
Okay. No.
That's what I normally look like, you schmuck.
You froze there, and I'm like, he's got a thought right in the front of his forehead, so I'm going to see if he still needs to get it out.
And happy birthday,
Chris, Danny, thank you.
Happy birthday in 9 days, my man. Or happy anniversary, rather. In 9 days.
21st. Thank you, sir.
So first off and foremost, I want to go around the horn really quick, and we'll say our goodbyes. Allison, did you want to have anything to offer to the gents?
Thank you guys so much. Yeah, you guys do amazing work. I really appreciate you guys coming on, even though you didn't know you were supposed to be on. I really appreciate you kind of swooped in and saved the day at the last second. We were like, what the hell are we going to talk about? So we really appreciate you guys. Keep doing what you're doing. And if you ever need any support or you ever need anything at all, we're all here to help out. And I'm just really proud to be a part of this community with you guys.
We appreciate it. Thank you for inviting us. I just found out like 5 minutes before we went on air. So I'm really happy that you guys brought us in. Chris texted me, goes, "Hey, Danny, hurry up, pick up your phone." And I'm very grateful that you guys thought of us, and we'll keep fighting for Tennessee. You guys keep doing what you're doing. You're doing awesome work as well. I follow you guys all the time. So any state org that wants any state to state information, they can reach out to us at Danny at tnsmokefree.org or Chris at tnsmokefree.org. We'll get immediately in touch with them. We'll help them organize if they're not organized, or we'll get them structured. We'll help them with what we're doing, and hopefully we can all, collate and kick the shit out of tobacco.
Absolutely. Phillip? Cheers.
I think you said it all right there. Look, I am.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
just wanted to first off, I was going to say first, you probably should, you could between you two and some of the other guests we've had on the show should team up with Nick Orlando, and then you guys should go into a big think tank and write a freaking manual on how the rest of the United States can properly combat this.
Well,
But with that said,
there's some great orgs out there. Great state orgs out there.
Absolutely, there are. There are some fantastic organizations out there, and we promote them all the time. Specifically, CASA as well, because that is the consumer advocate hub, and they're consumer advocates just like us. So we try to get everybody involved with CASA. People like the word free. That seems to work out for them. So when things are free, they're willing to jump in. But I just wanted to extend my greatest gratitude to you guys for doing this last minute. Again, I'm just firing off links to shows, and Chris is like, I didn't know I was supposed to be on a show. So it's absolute miracle, and I can't thank you enough for pulling this off and coming in last minute like that. But sometimes those make for great shows, and I think this was another great show. So I thank you guys personally for me for taking part in the show and doing everything that you do for advocacy. It's a very warm feeling to know that there's a lot of people that are out there fighting the same fight, and we all have a common goal, and that is to eradicate big tobacco and get people off of smoking and save some lives. So with that said, I've thrown up the links to your Twitter page and the website. As I understand, you have a new website possibly on the way here pretty soon. So use that for get. Is it going to be the same website URL?
It'll be the same web address. Yeah.
Okay, great. So we're just going to get a prettier presentation.
Facelift. Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you for giving me the 13-minute heads up. That was awesome. I was trying to close my store when I got that, but I appreciate that.
I got you.
Thanks for the 6 minutes, Chris. I appreciate that.
And Phillip, good to see you, man.
Great
good
to see you,
Allie, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you, Tim, as well.
Pleasure to meet you guys.
And
you can always find me on Twitter. Thank you so much.
Our chat group, our loyal chat group that shows up week after week after week. You guys are awesome. And don't forget, Wee Baby Seamus, if you're still watching, 7 p.m. Eastern time next week. We start a little bit earlier for the old people in the group. So at any rate, thank you guys.
Essential, y'all. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where will this be? Where will this be? Like the copy of this be on? It's like we can share.
This will be on YouTube. Yeah, on the Zample Box channel on YouTube. You'll be able to watch it back as often as you want. And then John typically will take the download of the recording and he'll put it up on Spotify as a podcast. So you'll be able to get the audio portion of that as well. So it'll be around. So you feel free to share it out. And we'd like to continue to stay in touch with you guys, and we'd be happy to have you back anytime you got some new news or something to offer. Just give us a shout.
Absolutely.
And we'll slide you in there. It's no problem.
We'll be back. We got some update stuff coming up probably by the end of summer. We'll have some really good news.
Fantastic. We need people like you.
Can't get enough of that.
Have you back. All right. So with that said, thank you, everybody. Appreciate you coming to this 100 and something episode of the Wednesday Night Live show. Yay. We will see you next week. And I'm trying to talk like a front man in a band right now because I'm trying to find the brand stuff.
Tim, you're doing so good,
finally
buddy.
Sign off. I hit the right video because I don't have to do this every week. This is all new for me. So thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
Cheers,
and
everyone.
Enjoy the rest of your week. Thanks, guys.
God bless, guys.